Chapter 356. Fortunately, I'm stronger than them. If I wasn't their match, how would I run? God's Eye, high-grade spirit treasure. Spirit treasure, not spirit weapon. Squeak. When Qin Shui heard Chen Hao's crazy words, she finally couldn't resist the curiosity in her heart and walked out. What God's Eye? Send a wisp of your mind over. A dark blue light suddenly shone from between Chen Hao's eyebrows, as if a third eye had appeared, emitting a profound mystery. At the instant, Chen Shui withdrew a strand of her consciousness and fused it into the space between Chen Hao's brows. Her perception instantly became extremely sharp, and it instantly and silently penetrated through the layer upon layer of seals set up by the inn, causing Chen Shui to stare with surprise. And then she was shocked and hastily withdrew her perception. High-grade spirit treasure. Hee. I made a huge profit this time. With it, my perception range can be increased by at least 3 times, and the sensitivity of close-range perception can be increased by 100 times. Good stuff. Moreover, it can be applied to your body. This thing fell off from Yi Shanshui's body. I really didn't expect that in order to deal with the two of us, the Southern Sea Islands actually paid such a huge price. When Chen Hao saw Qin Shui's face suddenly turn red, he hurriedly changed the topic and said proudly. Of course, he knew what Qin Shui sensed. Then, I'll give you the spirit spring. Although this is effective in tempering the body, the effect is too weak. I'll give this to you too. Chen Hao didn't wait for Chen Shui to speak and said. As he spoke, he handed over the storage ring and a jade slip that contained the spirit spring to Qin Shui. What is this? You don't need to know what it is. You only need to try chanting when you cultivate. It doesn't matter if you understand or not, as long as you divide a wisp of your mind to chant. I don't know if it's useful to you. Give it a try, Chen Hao said. Chen Shui frowned slightly, but still took it in her hand and directly entered the cultivation room. Her soul is also extremely powerful. It should be useful. After Chen Shui entered the cultivation room, Chen Hao secretly said in his heart, if it was possible, Chen Hao would have imparted the platinum sky-splitting slash and the 3,000 great Daos to Helian Wuzi, Tantai Lian, and Xia Yuyu a long time ago, but he didn't, because he knew very well that even if he passed it to the 3 of them, they would not be able to cultivate it at all. This was because it required a sufficiently powerful soul to support it. Otherwise, it would have the opposite effect. Only Chen Xuefeng, who had a powerful soul, could do it. I should still be able to make it now. If I don't need anything, I'll just sell it all off. Should I directly sell it to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion? Chen Hao looked at the damaged armor and the intact high-grade spirit weapon and thought to himself. Although he had a lot of primordial crystal stones now, it was only enough for Chen Hao to use for his own cultivation for a long time. If he wanted to refine the 5 mythological beasts and further fuse with the mysterious existence, he would have to make do. After stepping into the incarnation realm, Chen Hao could already fuse with the mysterious existence further. However, due to the lack of sufficient energy to support it, it had never been carried out. Even the 5 divine beasts didn't continue their tempering. The price might be lower, but it doesn't matter. At least it'll be faster. Thinking of this, Chen Hao kept the things and walked out of the room. 4 hours later, Chen Hao returned with a full load. He was a little surprised by Lei Long's enthusiasm and generosity. 30 upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 300,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones each. Even if this price was taken out for auction, it would not be much higher. And the 10 damaged upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 200,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. The 20 upper-grade spirit weapons were sold for an average of 10,000 mid-grade primordial crystal stones. This made Chen Hao feel even more surprised. What's more, Lei Long had exchanged all of Chen Hao's primordial crystal stones for upper-grade spirit weapons according to the normal ratio. Chen Hao was sure that Lei Long was making a loss in this transaction, at least on the surface. But in reality, Lei Long had indeed put in a lot of effort. Moreover, he had directly closed the deal without going through the higher-ups. However, what Chen Hao did not know was that after Lei Long had bought all of the things that Chen Hao had sold to him, he had sealed them up. He was waiting for the right time to sell these things at a price that exceeded their original value. Although the risk was great, Lei Long firmly believed that there would be such a day. After witnessing today's miracle, he chose to believe in Chun Hao. Adding on the original spirit stones of the 30 guys, the wealth obtained this time is a total of 387 pieces of top-grade primordial crystal stones. 1. 25 million high-grade primordial crystal stones. 4. 2 million mid-grade primordial crystal stones, and 12 million low-grade primordial crystal stones. This is definitely equivalent to the consumption of all the disciples of a 7th-grade sect in 3 years. When I came out to train, Sect Master spat out blood and clenched his teeth, but he only gave me 100,000 mid-grade primal crystal stones. Hee hee, this is a classic example of getting rich overnight. I wonder if it's enough. Thinking of this, Chun Hao directly stepped into the cultivation room and merged his consciousness into his mind. It should be enough now, right? In terms of pure energy, it's barely enough. If you encounter the materials you need during the auction, I'm afraid it won't be enough. However, it's important to gather the materials first. I'll let you know if you need them. Primordial crystal stones are easy to get with your conditions, but the materials can only be found by chance. Some things, I'm afraid you'll have to gather them yourself. The voice of the mysterious existence appeared in Chun Hao's mind. Are you tricking me or not? So when I fuse, I don't need so much energy and I don't need anything? Hearing the words of the mysterious existence, Chun Hao asked gloomily. So it's just awakening my lowest 2 stages of fusion. Naturally, I don't need anything. But when you step into the incarnation stage, fusion is the real first step. Once the fusion is successful, it will bring you benefits that no amount of wealth can exchange for. Then what benefits are there? Can you at least reveal some to me? I worked so hard to get so many primordial crystal stones, and it's such a waste. Waste? All right, then I'll reveal a little to you. Don't you think it's a waste to open an immortal-grade pill furnace? There are countless pill formulas in it. As long as you can comprehend them, you can refine the corresponding elixir, and the success rate is 100 times higher than the so-called best-grade spirit treasures in this world. It will also allow you to improve the use of various kinds of energy in the process of refining elixirs. This is only one of its functions. Of course, this function will only become more powerful as your strength increases. So, maybe you don't have the concept. Let me give you an example. The Nirvana pill you ate, it's precious, right? In the cultivation world here, it's worth 100,000 middle-grade primordial crystal stones, right? You need at least a creation stage alchemist to refine it, right? But as long as you successfully fuse with me, now you can refine it as long as you have the materials. And the medicinal effect will be much better. Ah, really? Of course it's true. All right, then I'll believe you. There's one more thing to remind you. The legacy of the secular sword Dao is considered a good legacy. You can comprehend it more. Although it will affect your state of mind, it will definitely be good for your future cultivation. You don't need to remind me. I've already realized it. All right, that's all. After Chun Hao finished speaking, he cut off the connection with the mysterious existence. In the beginning, Chun Hao tried his best to comprehend the inheritance of the secular sword principle, but every time, it made him feel uneasy. Distracting thoughts came one after another, and all kinds of emotions would come out of nowhere. This kind of feeling made him collapse. Chun Hao would rather suffer the pain of his soul than be immersed in these kinds of emotions. But now, with the understanding of the secular sword Dao, Chun Hao understood that even if he did not major in sword Dao, this thing was the existence that could improve his combat strength the most at present. Taking out 10 upper-grade primordial crystal stones at one time, Chun Hao immersed himself in cultivation and recovery. In the blink of an eye, it was the 3rd day. Early in the morning, 2 figures in black robes and black bamboo hats walked out of the inn with the crowd. These 2 people were Chun Hao and Chen Shui. But at this moment, it was impossible to tell who they were from their appearance. Moreover, the 2 of them did not use the incantation to merge with all things in the world. They just walked with the crowd toward the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. Moreover, no one would notice. This was because there were too many people in the same attire as Chun Hao and Chen Shui, and it was obvious that they were all going for the auction. Especially at such a large-scale auction, many people would not reveal their true identities. Only those with strong backgrounds who were not afraid of being targeted would show their true faces. Not showing off one's wealth was one thing. Grudges and feuds were the most common things at auctions. In particular, it was very common for people who had one powerful treasures to be targeted and lose both their wealth and life. F***CK, I'm a few days late. I actually missed such a grand battle that spread the name of the Eastern Continent's immortal Tao. I can't believe that Chun Hao and Chen Shui are so powerful. How long has it been since the inter-sect competition? It's unbelievable. This kind of genius is not something we can measure. The sect leader valued him when he was still weak. He really has a good eye, haha. That's right. However, this Chun Hao is a bit too fickle. Our Yu, as well as Hellion Woozy and Tantai Lien from the star-picking sect, are already three obvious ones. Now, there's Chun Shui, and she seems to be stronger than Yu. This isn't a good thing for our Ling Tian sect. What can we do? It's a waste of youth if he's not fickle. Moreover, you haven't seen Chen Shui. I'm afraid Chen Shui is not inferior to our Yu in any aspect. Unfortunately, Yu is brought to the limitless celestial palace. The pavilion closest to the water enjoys the moonlight first. That's impossible, right? It's possible if you say Chen Shui's combat strength and talent surpass Yu. How can she compare to Yu's appearance? The hedgehog still thinks its son is smooth. Although it's just a metaphor, it's said that the two of them will appear at the auction this time. You'll know when you see them. I really hope they don't appear. F***CK, the Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley in the Southern Sea Archipelago, actually chased after Chun Hao and Chen Shui. Who knows what they'll do? What made Chun Hao and Chen Shui feel a little awkward was the two old men who were walking in front of them were actually discussing in a low voice. Although the voice was very low and suppressed within a certain range, if they hadn't obtained the God's Eye, the two of them definitely wouldn't have been able to hear it. But now, with the powerful senses of the God's Eye, they could clearly hear it. Fortunately, the two of them were not holding hands at this moment. Otherwise, their palms would be sweating. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Come, your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 357. Little Shui. It looks like we're in trouble. What should we do? The Coiling Dragon Valley's Valley Master is probably an elite at the peak of the late-stage creation realm. We won't be able to hide our auras from him. Most importantly, you don't have the Guardian token. If he attacks you, we won't be able to do anything. We've killed 30 of their top prodigies, so he's probably angry from embarrassment. Even if he's wary of the Guardian token, he has many ways to deal with us. Chen Hao frowned and said, "Forget it. I think we shouldn't go to the auction. As long as we have the token, the pan fruit won't lose its effect. Let's just leave." Oh, go directly to the central continent? They're probably monitoring the transportation formation. It's too obvious if we're together. Why don't we split up? I'll go first. 15 minutes later. No need. We won't leave through the transportation formation. We'll leave the city directly. The transportation formation is where the spies gather. There's no secret we can hide. Leave the city directly? You mean we'll train all the way? Yes. Although it's dangerous, it's better than being watched. Let's go. Let's go to a secluded place and hide. Otherwise, we'll be recognized. Very quickly, when the two of them followed the flow of people and reached a turn, the two of them suddenly increased their speed and walked into a hidden corner of a shop. Soon after, without anyone noticing, they directly turned into two gusts of wind. Lock onto those two. In a luxurious private room in the huge auction house, several old men sat inside. Each of them had an extremely powerful aura. Every time there was a young man or woman in the auction house, they would become the target of these old men. These old men were the important figures of the 10 sects of the Southern Sea Archipelago. The old man sitting in the middle was the Coiling Dragon Valley's Valley Master. Every old man's expression was extremely ugly. 30, 30 top prodigies who represented the younger generation of the 10 sects of the Southern Sea Archipelago. How could they not be angry when Chun Hao and Chun Shui killed all of them? This was especially the case for the Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley, who was absolutely livid. When he received the news, he was so enraged that he destroyed an entire mountain. After all, Yu Chengfeng and Yi Shanshui were the two disciples that he was most proud of. They were also the disciples that he took pride in and spent a lot of effort on. However, they were actually killed by Chun Hao one after another. Moreover, this time, Yi Shanshui was holding his upper-grade Earth-level spirit treasure, the Heavenly Eye. That was an Earth-level upper-tier spirit treasure. Even in the Coiling Dragon Valley, it was extremely precious. There are already more than 100 of them. Brother Jean, the difference between their auras and their realms is obviously too great. It shouldn't be. I'd rather kill 1,000 by mistake than miss one. No matter what, I have to catch this brat. 30. So what if Limitless Immortal Palace knew about it? As long as our 10 Immortal Dao sects join forces, I don't believe that Limitless Immortal Palace can do anything to us. How can the top 30 geniuses of the younger generation die in vain? All right, then. At the entrance to the auction house. Young Master. When an imposing young man arrived at the entrance of the auction house, an old man immediately bowed in greeting. Are the two of them here yet? Not yet, young Master. The Valley Master of the Coiling Dragon Valley has made such a big commotion. I'm afraid the two of them. If they're not here, they're probably going to the Central Continent. Let's wait and see. Where are their seats? I'll wait inside. Inform me immediately if there's any news. It'll be a pity if I can't get to know them. Yes, young Master. Their past numbers have already corresponded to the third Earth box. Young Master, you're truly admirable for making friends with so many geniuses. Don't worry, young Master. Even if they don't show up at this auction, they'll definitely come back to collect their gains in the future, the old man said respectfully. If Chun Hao were here, he would definitely recognize this old man as the appraiser who had received him at the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce. This young man was famous in Emerald Smoke City. He was the eldest grandson of the president of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, the young master of the Chamber of Commerce, and the successor of the next generation. He was not even 30 years old, but he was already a half-step primordial spirit realm cultivator. His combat strength was extremely terrifying, and he was known as the top young expert in Emerald Smoke City. Even a mid-stage primordial spirit realm expert was no match for him. Apart from his own talent, this naturally had to do with the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce's powerful financial resources. Any piece of equipment he took off could crush an Avatar realm expert to death. 4 hours later, hiss, hiss, two faintly discernible gusts of wind suddenly stopped. Phew! What an evil aura! Is this an extraterrestrial demon beast? Chun Hao and Chen Shui, who had merged with all things in the world, stood in the void hand in hand as they sensed the terrifying aura in front of them. Extraterrestrial demon beasts were terrifying existences that the entire boundless continent had to defend against at all times. In the secular world and the cultivation world of the Eastern continent, because the immortal Tao, demon Tao, and devil Tao had jointly set up a spatial region barrier, they were basically not attacked by the extraterrestrial demon beasts. However, every sex experts at the peak of the late incarnation realm and above had to work together to resist the extraterrestrial demon beast tide when it erupted. The immortal Tao, monster Tao, and demon Tao were no exception. It was just that Chun Hao and the other young disciples had not been able to catch up in time. But now, in a city like Emerald Smoke City, which was not protected by a regional barrier, extraterrestrial demon beast tides would often appear. It should be. Won't it be too dangerous for us to leave like this? Once a demon beast tide erupts, even if it's a third-grade one, the two of us won't be able to defend against it. Just be careful. According to the records, demon beast tides don't erupt so easily. Let's go and avoid these fellows. Let's leave Emerald Smoke City first. If those old creation realm fellows really chase after us, we'll be in big trouble. We've killed too many this time. Come, I'll carry you. Chen Hao said as he wrapped his arms around Chen Shui's slender waist. What are you doing? Chen Shui was so frightened that she hurriedly pushed Chen Hao and asked with a little panic. However, Chen Hao did not retreat or give way. He firmly held Chen Shui's small waist, which could be held with one hand, under his strong arms. It's important to hurry. Our speed is too far behind that of a creation realm expert. You rest first. I'll take you away. When I'm tired, it'll be your turn. Don't be embarrassed. What's our relationship? Chen Hao said with a serious expression. As he spoke, he increased his speed to the maximum. Chen Shui wanted to say something, but in the end, she did not say it. Not only that, she also had to forcefully control her heartbeat and breathing. She could not let Chen Hao feel that anything was wrong. However, her body still could not help but tense up. There was nothing she could do about it. So what if they were siblings? Besides, they were not related by blood. Besides, she had long since developed feelings for Chen Hao that went beyond the relationship between siblings. She could still remain calm when holding hands with Chen Hao, but to be so intimate with him. After all, she was a young girl, and she had never come into contact with any man before. If it was anyone else, they might not be able to bear it, right? Fortunately, Chen Hao really seemed to be rushing and did not have any other thoughts. Chen Shui also knew that if the two of them activated their energy to fly at the same time, their speed would indeed be a little faster for a short period of time, but only by a little. After all, to a cultivator, bringing a person with them was about the same as carrying a very light sword. The impact on speed was basically negligible. If the two of them took turns, they would be able to save time to rest. Their speed would at least be increased by a little. However, what Chen Shui did not know was, this waist is really thin, and it feels really good. It's much thinner than the one I encountered in the illusion. Chen Hao, who looked serious and seemed to be rushing with all his might, said a little evilly in his heart. He, who had begun to comprehend the secular Sword Dao inheritance again, as long as his mind was integrated into the Sword Dao inheritance, all kinds of illusions would appear. Moreover, the people in each illusion were people he knew and came into contact with. Sometimes it was things from the previous life, and sometimes it was in this life. All kinds of illusions that disturbed one's state of mind seemed to be completely real. It was as if Chen Hao had obtained a new life and experienced the 7 emotions and 6 desires of the mortal world. In this situation, if it were not for Chen Hao's tenacious mind and strong soul, he would probably collapse and become a demon at any time. This was also the main reason why Chen Hao had not been willing to try to comprehend the secular Sword Dao inheritance. In these 2 nights, there were illusions where Chen Shui was present. Illusions were born from the heart, and the secular Sword Dao inheritance magnified any insignificant feelings in Chen Hao's heart by hundreds or thousands of times. It's just a little hard. No, this girl is nervous, Chen Hao secretly said, smelling the faint virgin body fragrance on Chen Shui's body, and then thinking of Chen Shui's possible mood at the moment. Chen Hao was smug and wanted to tease her, but he still held back. He was afraid of poking through the layer of paper. Otherwise, if the relationship between the two of them heated up, what if he couldn't help it? 2 hours later, Chen Hao flew continuously in an extreme state. After consuming nearly half of his energy, he finally stopped, and it was Chen Shui's turn to fly with him in her arms. With a powerful soul perception ability, the two of them avoided cultivators and demon beasts from afar, and did not stop. Half a month later, the two of them had flown at least 10 million miles and encountered countless terrifying foreign demonic beasts. Fortunately, the two of them were in a state where they had merged with everything in the world. Otherwise, with their cultivation bases, they would have died long ago. At this moment, even the two of them did not know where they were flying to. The information in the Guardian Order only recorded the city and the area near the city. The two of them flew such a long distance aimlessly, there was no record at all. What a beautiful valley. We have been flying for so long, we should be safe. The aura of the demon beasts in this 1,000-mile radius is not very strong. Why don't we go down and rest? Chen Shui gazed at the fairyland-like valley below, and said, "After flying continuously for half a month, even if the two of them took turns, their bodies and minds were exhausted to the limit. Okay, anyway, we don't know where we are. The aura here is suitable for us to cultivate." Chunhao replied, "One update. Sigh, not only can I not fight for the third update, I can't fight for the second update either. I saw the doctor yesterday and went to the hospital today for a detailed examination, but the final results are not out yet. But the situation is definitely a little serious. The headache caused by the cervical vertebra is chest tightness, and there's a possibility of nervous breakdown. To be honest, Wushan really does not feel that the cervical vertebra is that bad, but the occupational disease should have already come. I will get the results tomorrow. After that, I will do a detailed treatment. The update can only be postponed. Yesterday, I promised that before the 10th of next month, I will double the amount. I am afraid that I will not be able to finish it before the 10th. I will tell you in advance. Brothers and sisters who can't wait, please take care of them first. I will catch my breath and recover. During this time, I will try my best to maintain 2 updates. If I can't maintain it, there is nothing I can do. I am really sorry. I can't really throw away my life just because of writing. I write slowly. Sitting for 14 hours a day without moving is really too painful. Before the end of the world comes, I really don't want to die early. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 358. In a valley, streams flowed, spring water gurgled, and vegetation grew on both sides of the valley. Green pines and cypresses, strange flowers and plants were everywhere. In the narrow and dangerous places, waterfalls could be seen everywhere. There were many natural caves on both sides, decorating the valley with an unusually mysterious and beautiful appearance. At the bottom of the valley, there was a lake with a radius of 3,000 meters. Looking down from above, it looked like a piece of green jade, emitting a sparkling light. Not good. The two of them had just descended for less than 1,000 meters when they cried out in alarm at the same time. A liquid-like, invisible, untouchable, and undetectable energy barrier actually blocked the two of them, and in an instant, the two of them seemed to have fallen into a quagmire. Chi-Chi, Chunhao, and Chun Shui activated their energy at the same time. Violent, true essence rose from their bodies, wanting to blast away the strange energy that was sticking to their bodies. But what shocked the two of them even more was that after the true essence broke out of their bodies, it was like mud sinking into the sea. Not only did it not break, but the strange energy that was surrounding the two of them became even more powerful. It surged with an irresistible force that the two of them were like elastic ropes that tightly wrapped around the two of them. The two of them were originally holding hands, but at this moment, they directly became face to face with their bodies pressed against each other. Their faces and bodies, with a bang, collided with each other like two poles of a magnet. The terrifying force of the collision caused Chun Shui's peerlessly beautiful eyes to see stars. Her nose felt sour, and her heart was both terrified and shy, because Chunhao's mouth had already been tightly pressed together with her little mouth through her thin black veil. Their bodies were even more closely pressed together, and she could clearly feel that her cheeks and soft breasts were severely deformed, yet that terrifying force still pressed against her. Chun Shui's eyes could no longer see anything. She even suspected that her eyes had been crushed by Chunhao's face, and her entire body felt like it was about to explode. Chun Shui had no choice but to gather all the strength in her body to resist this pressure. Chunhao was also desperately activating his energy, but the more he did so, the tighter the binding force became. Chunhao's physical body was several times stronger than Chun Shui's, so he naturally didn't feel as much pain as Chun Shui. However, he could clearly feel that Chun Shui's face, soft breasts, and body were about to be crushed by his own body. Xiao Shui, stop struggling. Restrain your true essence. Chunhao was also frightened to the extreme, but the more frightened he was, the calmer his mind was. He clearly realized that after struggling for a while, Chun Shui was about to be crushed by him. Chun Hao suddenly withdrew all of his strength and sent a voice transmission to Chun Shui at the same time, anxiously saying. His voice even contained the clear heart technique of the evening drum and morning bell. He was afraid that Chun Shui had already fallen into madness. In such a situation, it would be better if he shouted out loud. However, Chun Hao had no choice but to transmit his voice. This was because their mouths had been completely stuffed. He couldn't see anything with his eyes. Only his mind could sense his surroundings. At this moment, if one were to look at the two of them from the outside, they would seem to have become conjoined twins. Chun Shui's entire body was squashed flat, as if she was stuck to Chun Hao's body. Fortunately, just as Chun Hao finished speaking, Chun Shui, who was frantically struggling, retracted her energy. What is this? I can't take it anymore. Could it be? Chun Shui's mind was clear as she transmitted her voice to Chun Hao with a trace of fear. In fact, if not for Chun Shui's soul being much stronger than ordinary people, she would have long fallen in a madness or fainted from the pain of her body being squashed flat. Of course, if she had fainted earlier, she wouldn't be in such a miserable state now. Because after the two of them gave up struggling one after another, the squeezing force surrounding their bodies did not increase anymore. It only maintained the current state. It was obviously impossible for the two of them to separate. 9 Nether Frost Pool. Chun Shui and Chun Hao's voices resounded in their minds at the same time. That's right. It must be the 9 Nether Frost Pool. I didn't expect that we would accidentally encounter one of the top 10 mysterious lands of the boundless continent. Little Shui, you have to hold on. Heal your injuries first and don't care about anything else. Just take care of yourself and don't emit any energy. I'll think a way. Chun Hao's mind was filled with intense shock and worry as he transmitted his voice to her. The 9 Nether Frost Pool, in the records of the boundless continent that Chun Hao had obtained, was one of the top 10 mysterious lands of the boundless continent. It was 6 million miles away from the nearest city, Dragon Cliff City. It was discovered by cultivators tens of thousands of years ago. When it was discovered, countless cultivators had already died in the barrier of the 9 Nether Frost Pool. The first cultivator who sent the news of the 9 Nether Frost Pool back to the cultivation world was lucky enough not to enter the barrier. He watched as his companions, who were several times stronger than him, exploded one by one from the pressure. After that, countless experts went to explore it, but no one succeeded. Not a single person who stepped into the barrier could come out. Even a few immortal supremacies had died in there. The supreme existences of the immortal Tao, the supreme existences of the demon Tao, and the supreme existences of the demon Tao, the supreme existences of the immortal Tao, the supreme existences of the demon Tao, sent out countless experts who were nearing the end of their lifespans and had no hope of advancing to the next realm to try. But in the end, they all died in the barrier and couldn't even pass through it, not to mention entering it and coming out alive. Is there any other way? It was hard for Chun Shui not to feel despair. How could she and Chun Hao do something that the entire boundless continent couldn't crack for tens of thousands of years? Not to mention that their cultivation was only at the incarnation realm, even if they were at the creation realm. So what? I'm sorry, Chun. Little brother, I've harmed you. If I didn't want to rest here, this wouldn't have happened. Sorry my ass. Little brother my ass. Just follow me and heal your injuries. Persevere for as long as you can. If you can't persevere, you have to persevere with me. Remember to recite the words that I pass to you. Even if the rest of the world can't, it doesn't mean that we can't. Believe in yourself. Don't give up until the last moment. Do as I say. Chun Hao immediately swore and transmitted his voice to Bai Yunfei. His voice was unquestionable and domineering. Even though he knew that hope was so slim that it was close to none, how could Chun Hao give up? Even if he died, he had to die with a bang. How could he die so miserably? He still had a lot of things to do and a lot of goals to achieve. For the sake of his obsession, he didn't waste a single bit of time. He cultivated crazily for his goals at all times. In his previous life, he had stepped onto the peak of Earth, but he had never enjoyed family, love, or friendship. In this lifetime, he possessed the qualifications to enjoy family, love, and friendship, But for the sake of his own obsession and goal, he didn't stop to enjoy it, because he knew that in this cruel world where martial arts were respected, if he were to enjoy life at this moment, it would only be a flash in the pan, and it would be shattered and destroyed at any moment. This wasn't what he wanted. What he wanted was eternal brilliance, a happiness that no one could destroy. How could he die now? Chen Shui didn't speak anymore. It wasn't that she believed in Chen Hao, but she chose to believe and also chose to listen to Chen Hao's orders. She threw away all distracting thoughts and immersed herself in healing. She knew that if she didn't do so, it wouldn't take long for her to die here. Although she would die here in the end, as long as she didn't exhaust her energy and didn't struggle, she could prolong her life as much as possible. No one could save her. Once she fell into the barrier, even the palace master of limitless immortal palace couldn't save her. No information or energy could be transmitted outside the barrier. What was the use of the will left in her mind by her mother? In this barrier, any aura would be blocked. The power of will couldn't be activated at all. Moreover, even if it could be activated, the final result would make her die faster. Any power that was released would be more violently applied to her body. This was the horror of this barrier. No matter the level of cultivation, it was the same treatment. This was basically a state of waiting for death, a fate that couldn't be escaped. However, she wanted to live a little longer, because Chen Hao hadn't given up and was still with her. If Chen Hao could talk when he gave up, it would be good to wait for his energy to exhaust and die. Sensing that Chen Shui had truly entered the healing state, Chen Hao heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Of course, he was only relieved for Chen Shui. Whether he could succeed or not was unknown, and he didn't have any confidence at all. If he couldn't succeed in the end, it was just a matter of dying early or late. If he succeeded and Chen Shui died in front of him, he wouldn't be able to forgive himself. He was very clear that this was a dangerous situation that he had never encountered before, a dangerous situation that all the powerful people in the boundless world couldn't understand and solve. But he was confident. Until the last moment, he was confident. Moreover, the mysterious existence in his mind had already recognized the nature of the barrier. Phew! Chen Hao let out a long sigh of relief in his heart, threw away all the distracting thoughts, and asked in his mind, "What is the Qi of Origin?" This was the name that the mysterious existence said in shock in Chen Hao's mind after Chen Hao merged into the barrier. Qi of Origin, as the name suggests, is the Qi of origin of this world, is the foundation of this world. In the universe, there are countless planets, and every planet's Qi of origin is different. And this barrier is formed by the Qi of origin of this world. If I'm not wrong, the valley within the barrier is one of the primordial spaces of this world, the mysterious existence said in a deep voice. In that case, Qi of origin is the highest and most advanced energy in this world. Primordial space, which is the initial embryonic state of this world. It can't be described as energy. To be exact, it's not energy. It's just the origin, which covers the essence of everything in this world, the origin of everything. Primordial space is the initial form of this world, the origin of everyone in this world, any living thing or non-living thing, is it. It's the origin of all existence in this world. As long as one belongs to this world, it's basically impossible to break it, unless one's cultivation is high enough to destroy this world. Otherwise, one will always be bound by the origin, the mysterious existence said. Try to write the second chapter before 12 o'clock. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 359. However, you're an exception. Because you don't belong here, your origin isn't here. You don't need to have the ability to destroy this world. As long as you can comprehend the mystery of this Qi of origin, this barrier won't be able to trap you. However, I'm afraid it'll take a long time. Even if your comprehension is high, it'll probably take a year and a half. The mysterious existence said in a heavy voice. Obviously, in the face of this predicament, although he understood, he was helpless. His ability rose according to Chun Hao's ability. At this moment, because Chun Hao had not merged further after stepping into the incarnation realm, his ability was even more limited. 1.5 years. I can't even move my fingers now. How can I hold on for so long? The mysterious existence's words increased the pressure on Chun Hao by 1,000 times. At this moment, even if he restrained all his energy, the most basic consumption was still there, and he couldn't take out primordial crystal stones and spirit spring to replenish his energy. How long could this last? Moreover, Chun Hao was very clear that under this so-called qi of origin, not only was he unable to refine and absorb any energy of heaven and earth, but the energy in his body was constantly being devoured. Even if he completely restrained it, it was impossible for there not to be any leakage of energy. 3 days was already his limit. After many people entered, they could only watch helplessly as their energy ran out and died. I can urge the spirit spring and primordial crystal stones to provide energy to you. It shouldn't be a problem to last for half a year. If you can't comprehend it before the energy runs out, then the consequences will be unimaginable. Also, if you still want to provide energy to Qin Shui, you can only last for less than 2 months. She's affected by the origin, and her energy consumption will be much faster than you. How to choose, you decide, the mysterious existence said. During this period of contact, he already understood Chun Hao very well. If he didn't tell him the seriousness of the problem, it was impossible for Chun Hao to give up on Qin Shui. Moreover, he was also clear that even if he said so, the possibility of Chun Hao giving up on Qin Shui was very small. There's no need to choose. I'll start to comprehend now. You and I look after her. Once her energy is about to run out, wake me up immediately. If she wants to die, then she'll die. If she wants to live, then she'll live. Qin Hao, disdained to live alone. This is an order. If you dare to disobey, I will kill myself. This. After Chun Hao finished speaking, he did not give the mysterious existence a chance to persuade him. He directly threw away all distracting thoughts and immersed himself in the comprehension without any distractions. Time was everything. He believed that since he had said so, the mysterious existence had no reason to resist him. Until now, Chun Hao still didn't know what kind of existence the mysterious existence was. However, he knew that his goal was to let him step into a realm that his previous masters could not reach. If he died, it would mean that he would fall into the next cycle of reincarnation. He did not know how many years he would have to wait before he could find a new master. How dare he disobey him? His mind merged into the qi of origin that bound his body bit by bit. Chun Hao's brain became empty, but it was operating at a high speed that he had never experienced before. It was like a super powerful computer, precisely calculating any subtle fluctuations of the qi of origin and grasping the mysteries within. Chun Shui's mind was chanting the primary outline of the Great Tao like the evening drum and morning bell. She was multitasking, and at the same time, she was repairing her body that was instantly crushed by the barrier. Time passed by minute, and the vital essence in Chun Shui's dantian became less and less. However, her physical body was recovering at an astonishing speed. Under this mentality of certain death, Chun Shui put down all the baggage, all distracting thoughts, and achieved the true state of thoughtlessness. This made the primary outline of the Great Tao, which she only felt a little effect, exert an amazing effect at this moment. For hours, it only took 4 hours. Usually, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to recover her physical body without the help of elixirs. However, it magically returned to normal. The beautiful face that was almost squashed by Chun Hao regained its former vigor. Moreover, in this state of restraining energy and trying not to let the energy leak out, although she and Chun Hao were still close together, they were no longer in a squashed state. She could clearly feel Chun Hao's state. What made her slightly surprised was that at this moment, Chun Hao's aura did not seem to be consumed in the slightest. It was still in a full state. However, she only had less than 40% of her energy left. Moreover, even though she was in a completely restrained state, Her energy was still rapidly depleting. At this rate, she would run out of energy in less than a day. She could feel the mental fluctuations emitted by Chun Hao. It was a kind of fluctuation with a high frequency that she could not imagine. It was obvious that Chun Hao was comprehending the mystery of this barrier. She did not dare to disturb him. She could only quietly feel him close to her body and feel her energy depleting bit by bit. Time passed by minute. Chun Hao's energy was still full, but Chun Shue's energy was decreasing bit by bit. Was she going to die from exhaustion? Perhaps he could really break through the barrier? All kinds of thoughts, as Chun Shue felt her life depleting, entered her mind. She did not know why Chun Hao's energy was always full, but she knew that if Chun Hao could really maintain this state, he could really break through the barrier. However, she was afraid that she would not be able to see it. She had a lot of things that she wanted to tell Chun Hao. She had a lot of secrets that she wanted to tell Chun Hao. However, she still restrained herself and did not disturb Chun Hao. If he could walk out of the barrier, why would she need to say those meaningless words? These words she could only say if Chun Hao wanted to quietly wait for death with her. Although it was also meaningless, at least the two of them would die together without any secrets. Gently sighing in her heart, Chun Shue's mouth revealed a calm and relieved smile. She was praying for him. She was also recalling everything that had happened since she knew him. The first time, when she first stepped into the cultivation world, the disciple of the 100 Empire ranking went to the endless sea to gain experience. Because of curiosity and also because she was not afraid, her other identity became his scapegoat. When she saw him for the first time, how did she feel? At that time, she did not understand. Now, she understood, just like when Chun Hao and Xia Yu met for the first time. Some things were destined by fate, the feeling that arose from the first time they met. When she did not know her true identity, she discovered that his father was the person that her master had been searching for over 100 years. This made her secretly happy. She had always been competing with him in every aspect. One reason was because of her arrogant personality that did not admit defeat. The other reason was because of an indescribable feeling in her heart. Later on, she met him with her real identity. The first time they held hands, the first time they hugged, the first time they kissed. If flying while hugging each other in order to speed up their journey counted as hugging, then being forced to stick together at this moment counted as kissing. Then her first time was taken by Chun Hao. There were many regrets. She had yet to truly merge into her true self. She had yet to lift her veil in front of him and reveal her most beautiful self. She had yet to fulfill her mother's wish. She had yet to see her father who made her feel complicated. But to be able to die in his arms like this, and to be in such close contact, and even kiss, more or less, it could be considered a kind of consolation, right? As her thoughts ran wild, Chun Shue became weaker and weaker. Her thoughts became slower and slower. Only the heat from Chun Hao's body made her feel a trace of warmth. Her energy is about to run out. The voice of the mysterious existence, carrying a trace of confusion and depression, quietly appeared in the mind of Chun Hao, who was immersed in his comprehension. Chun Shue, whose consciousness had already become a little fuzzy due to the exhaustion of her energy, suddenly felt her lips being forcefully separated by the black veil. Little Shue, focus your mind. I will imbue you with energy. That if you want to take the sky bridge, hurry up. Don't hide, and don't be embarrassed. We have no choice. At the same time, Chun Hao's voice resounded in her mind. Faintly, Chun Shue could feel the confusion in Chun Hao's voice. Don't hide? How could she have the strength to hide? Don't be embarrassed? She, who had already sunk into a muddle-headed state, how could she know how to be embarrassed? Their tongues touched. Even though there was a thin veil between them, Chun Hao's mind trembled, and his entire body was filled with blood. As for Chun Shue, only a trace of ripple appeared in her heart. Her delicate body, which was almost ice-cold and stiff, could not be excited. This pure and majestic true origin instantly passed through Chun Hao and into Chun Shue's body. After a moment, Chun Shue, who had received the replenishment of energy, the speed of her blood circulation gradually increased. Her mind was also quickly refining the unstoppable true origin. But most of her mind was focused on her small mouth. She did not dare to move at all, and she could not move at all. Her fragrant tongue, which was supposed to be slippery and agile, was stiff and numb as it received Chun Hao's energy. Don't be distracted. Use all your strength to refine. Chun Hao's voice sounded again. This caused Chen Shui, who was gradually becoming lively, to be extremely shy. But immediately, she forcefully focused her mind and quickly refined the vigorous and pure true origin that Chun Hao passed to her, turning it into her own energy more than 10 minutes later. I'll comprehend first. You can't comprehend this barrier, so don't try. Restrain yourself and reduce the consumption to the minimum. Wait for me. Don't ask. Wait until we get out. I'll explain to you. Chen Shui did not have time to think, as Chun Hao poured more and more energy into her. She could only refine with all her strength. But when her energy had just reached a full state, Chun Hao did not give her a chance to ask and directly said. After he finished speaking, he once again immersed himself in comprehension. In fact, Chun Hao's mind was completely multitasking. He did not stop comprehending, but only separated a part of his mind to pour energy into Chen Shui, minimizing the consumption. His energy is always in a full state, but he did not absorb the energy of heaven and earth. Could it be she used a secret technique to absorb the energy of the primordial crystal stones or spirit spring that he brought? How long can this consumption last? Can he comprehend in the time that it lasts? When Chun Hao once again immersed himself in comprehension, various thoughts appeared in Chen Shui's mind. In a moment, she knew that she had become a burden to him. Second update. I got the results today. Fortunately, it's not as serious as the doctor said the day before yesterday. But the problem is not small. He prescribed a bunch of medicine for oral consumption and a tractor to hang his head up and stretch his neck and cervical spine. Every day, he has to hang himself 3 times. Once every 2 days, he has to go to physiotherapy and use something to warm himself up for half an hour. These few days, Dark Mountain cooperates with the treatment, so he can't sit for too long. He can only try to write as much as possible. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 360. What should she do? Death. If she could, Chen Shui would not hesitate. However, she did not dare and could not do so. She didn't dare to, because if she were to use her energy to self-destruct, she would probably destroy Chun Hao, who was close to her. She couldn't, because if she couldn't self-destruct, she could only wait for her energy to run out. However, when she ran out of energy, she could not reject Chun Hao's infusion of energy. Furthermore, based on her understanding of Chun Hao would not abandon her. The only thing she could do was to follow Chun Hao's instructions and reduce her energy consumption as much as possible. Phew! Chen Shui heaved a long sigh of relief in her heart. She completely retracted her mind and threw away all distracting thoughts as she immersed herself in her energy center. The energy, essence, spirit, and consciousness in her body began to converge towards her energy center. At the same time, she continued to recite the abstruse outline of the great Tao in her mind. Gradually, the energy that naturally flowed out of her body became less and less. She became weaker and weaker, and her energy consumption also decreased. Her aura became weaker and weaker, as if she had entered a deep hibernation state. There were only the mysterious characters floating in her mind, and there was not a trace of distracting thoughts. Hiss, 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 Chen Shui and Chun Hao were in a race against time. One was immersed in comprehension, while the other was immersed in restraint. After 3 whole days, 6 figures flew over. There were 3 males and 3 females. The 3 females were all rare beauties. Of the 3 youths, one of them was handsome and had an imposing appearance. As for the other 2 youths, one of them was unusually tall and had a rough appearance. He had a wild aura. The other was short and fat. However, without exception, they were all extremely young and had reached the half-step primordial soul stage. The aura around them was even stronger than the previous one. Especially the handsome youth who stood in front of them was obviously the leader of the six. What a beautiful valley. Is this the legendary ninth hell, Frosty Pool? One of the pretty girls who was holding the youth's arm said as she looked down. Her eyes shone with excitement. Yes, this is the ninth hell, Frosty Pool. Everyone, don't go any closer. The barrier is 3,000 meters below. The Nine-Nether Frost Pond was one of the 10 most dangerous places. Although it is not the strongest of the 10 great danger grounds, it is even more mysterious and terrifying than the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range, which is ranked first. The imposing young man had a faint smile on his face as he squinted his eyes and stared at the Nine-Nether Frost Pool beneath him. The reason why the aura of the demon beasts in this area is so weak is because of the existence of the ninth hell Frosty Pool. It was so beautiful that anyone who saw it, even if they were demonic beasts, would be uncontrollably attracted to it and be buried in it. What's even stranger is that you can sense it carefully. Don't you feel a faint sense of summoning? Indeed. If we didn't come here specifically to see the Nine Underworlds Frost Pond, but encountered it by chance and didn't realize that this was the Nine Underworlds Frost Pond, what would you do? This. I will definitely go down and take a look. Phew. Brother Lin, let's hurry up and leave. If we keep watching, I might not be able to resist the urge to jump down. I have the same feeling. The other young men and women also agreed. When they thought of the legend of the 9 frozen pools, their eyes revealed a trace of fear. So beautiful. Brother Hao, I really want to go down and take a look. What's that? The first girl to speak was attracted by the beautiful and illusory 9 Underworlds Frost Pond as she spoke. Just as she was speaking, she suddenly seemed to have seen something. Her eyes abruptly opened wide as she pointed down and exclaimed in surprise. It's 2 people, Hearing the girl's words, everyone's gazes followed the direction of the girl's finger. Exerting their vision, they instantly saw 2 motionless figures that were tightly pressed together. The pupils of the imposing young man suddenly constricted as he seemed to have thought of something. He said, "Could it be them?" "Who?" The imposing young man took a deep breath and said, "Before we came, I intended to invite the 2 people who came with us, Chen Hao and Chen Shui." Everyone was shocked in their hearts. This imposing young man was none other than a young master of the Emerald Smoke Chamber of Commerce, the #1 expert of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City, Lin Hao. The 5 people beside him were all outstanding figures of the younger generation in Emerald Smoke City. After carefully sizing them up for a moment, Lin Hao's expression carried a trace of regret as he shook his head and said, "It should be them. What a pity." Although he had missed the battle between Chen Hao and Chen Shui and the 30 peerless geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands, and hadn't seen the 2 of them, he had learned of their appearances from the appraiser. At this moment, the 2 of them were dressed in black, and their faces couldn't be seen. However, Chen Shui, who was wearing a black veil, and the silhouette of the 2 of them were exactly the same as the illusions condensed by the appraiser. When he recalled that the 2 of them hadn't left through the teleportation formation, he confirmed his guess. "Let's go. Don't look anymore." Seeing the shocked expressions of everyone, Lin Hao hurriedly said. He was very clear that if they continued to stay, they would probably lose control, and he was no exception. This was because the 9 Underworlds Frost Pond would cause the desire in one's heart to become stronger and stronger as one stared at it. In the end, it would evolve into an unstoppable force. They had specially come here this time just to experience it and didn't want to die here. "Let's go." Hiss. The 6 figures swayed as they resisted the urge to take another look and turned around to leave. All of them headed to the nearest Dragon Cliff City. Although Lin Hao wanted to get to know Chen Hao and Chen Shui, he had no intention of saving them. It was not that he didn't want to, but he couldn't. There was no one in the world who could save them. She actually held on for 5 days. When he received the mysterious existence's reminder again, Chen Hao was multitasking. He continued to comprehend while instilling energy into Chen Shui. What surprised him was that Chun Shui actually held on for 5 full days under the mysterious primary outline of the Great Path before her energy was depleted. This was completely beyond the expectations of the mysterious existence in Chun Hao. One must know that even if Chun Hao wasn't affected by the origin, he definitely wouldn't be able to hold on for 5 days if the mysterious existence didn't continuously provide him with energy. Moreover, what surprised Chun Hao even more was that at this moment, Chun Shui was still immersed in a deep level of silence and didn't wake up even after he instilled energy into her. Could it be because of the primary outline of the Great Path? Chun Hao pondered as he sensed the mysterious and extremely restrained aura in Chun Shui's elixir field. Based on Chun Hao's understanding of Chun Shui, it seemed that other than the unknown mysterious power of the primary outline of the Great Path, there was nothing else that could make Chun Shui enter such a state. This made Chun Hao look forward to it. For the past few days, he had tried his best, and his brain was constantly calculating and grasping the mystery of the barrier. However, he couldn't understand it at all. It could be said that there was no progress at all. It felt as if he had encountered the solitary sword technique that was 100 or 1,000 times stronger than him. It was constantly changing irregularly, and Chun Hao couldn't figure out at all. The primary outline of the Great Path is the origin of the Great Path. The 3,000 Great Paths originated from the primary outline of the Great Path. And this primordial chi is the unique origin of this world. Origin against origin. Yes, it must be so. The mystery of this barrier is just like the primary outline of the Great Path. I can't grasp any clues at all. Maybe the mystery of the primary outline of the Great Path can help me comprehend it. Thinking of this, Chun Hao's strand of mind didn't join the comprehension anymore. Instead, he directly began to recite the primary outline of the Great Path. Compared to Chun Hao's recitation of the primary outline of the Great Path was naturally much stronger. In a moment, the sound of the evening drum and morning bell resounded in Chun Hao's mind. As he recited, he comprehended the mystery of the barrier. He still couldn't comprehend it and couldn't sense any abnormalities. However, Chun Hao didn't stop reciting and repeated it over and over again. As time passed, the speed and rhythm of Chun Hao's recitation gradually began to have an imperceptible change. The characters seemed to be in sync with the mysterious frequency of the barrier and produced a slight resonance. Although it wasn't obvious, it was caught by Chun Hao. Although Chun Hao still didn't comprehend the slightest bit, this slight change made Chun Hao overjoyed. He knew that he was in the right direction. In the blink of an eye, 6 months passed by in a hurry. Chun Hao's consumption became less and less. From 5 days after the first infusion by Chun Hao, it continued to be extended. The second time was 7 days, and then it could be extended a little each time. In a full 6 months, Chun Hao only instilled 17 times. If not for this, the primordial crystal stones and spirit spring stored in Chun Hao's mind space would have been exhausted 3 months ago. After all, although the mysterious existence could refine the energy of the primordial crystal stones and spirit spring and transfer it to Chun Hao, it was an extremely complicated and wasteful process. Less than 1,000th of it could be used. According to the mysterious existence's estimation, if Chun Hao was alone, he could support himself for a year just by relying on the primordial crystal stones. When he told Chun Hao that he could only support himself for half a year, it was just to give Chun Hao more pressure, because he knew that Chun Hao was the kind of person who could explode the more pressure he was under. However, he didn't expect Chun Shui to be able to reduce her consumption to such an extent. After supporting the two of them for half a year, the primordial crystal stones had just been exhausted. Only the spirit spring is left. This spirit spring can be used at the end. Once the spirit spring is used up, it can't be used again. So, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, Qilin, all of you come over. In Chun Hao's mind, the 5 divine beasts, treasure-hunting sword spirit, Edo Tai, and a mysterious existence that vaguely looked like an old man were all standing around the spirit spring. At this moment, the mysterious existence glanced at the 5 divine beasts and said, Edo Tai was only a remnant soul and didn't have any energy to provide. Although the treasure-hunting sword spirit contained a huge amount of energy, in Chun Hao's mind, it was the second in line. The mysterious existence naturally wanted to start with the 5 divine beasts who had the lowest status. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 361. Of course, it was not to erase them. It was only to release their energy by removing their fusion with Chun Hao. As long as Chun Hao could survive this crisis, they could merge again in the future. Yes, the 5 divine beasts swayed and arrived in front of the mysterious existence. Immediately, they formed the 5 divine beast marks and began to circulate slowly. The mysterious existence formed a series of mysterious runes that enveloped the 5 divine beasts. Majestic and vigorous energy suddenly emitted from the 5 divine beasts, and under the control of the mysterious existence, it constantly replenished Chun Hao's consumption. In the 7th month, the 5 divine beasts became 5 fist-sized divine beast marks. There was no more energy to be extracted, and they also lost all connection with Chun Hao. The treasure-hunting sword spirit also bravely sacrificed itself. The mysterious existence could only begin to sacrifice the spirit spring, and he became more and more worried. Only the spirit spring is left. I have already set up a Qinquan spirit gathering formation for this spirit spring, and its efficiency is 100 times higher than the Yuan crystal stones. But it is still too little. At most, it can last for a month. Is Chun Hao really going to die here? Even the mysterious existence did not expect the chi of origin of this world to be so difficult to comprehend. He was very clear about how strong Chun Hao's comprehension was, but it had already been 7 months, and it had far exceeded his expectations. Chun Hao's current state was even more mysterious. Even he did not know how far he had progressed and when he would succeed. 3 days later, 1/10 of the spirit spring had been consumed. 6 days later, 2/10 of the spirit spring had been consumed. The mysterious existence became more and more worried. But just as the 7th day began, a buzzing tremor suddenly sounded in Chun Hao's mind. Buzz, buzz. Accompanied by the vast and magnificent chanting that sounded like the evening drum and morning bell, Chun Hao's mind, which had fused with the barrier, seemed to have become one with every syllable and the mysteries of the barrier. From the initial subtle resonance to the current violent tremor, the quantitative change finally reached a qualitative change. Chun Hao had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He could clearly sense the disappearance of the auras of the 5 divine beasts and the treasure-hunting sword spirit. He also knew that this was the final moment. In 7 months and 6 days, Chun Hao's arms had already completely embraced Chun Shui in his embrace. He had made all the necessary preparations. He had been waiting for this moment to come. The violent tremors seemed to have no pattern, and there were thousands of changes in an instant. However, every single tremor appeared clearly in Chun Hao's mind. There was still no pattern, but because of the profound Grand Tao outline, they were all within Chun Hao's foresight. Chun Hao's mind was fully utilized at that instant, as he was multitasking. Finally, the moment a huge shock arrived, Chun Hao, who had been in peak condition all this time, the energy around his body skyrocketed in an instant. Moreover, at a terrifying speed, he violently used the technique of 4 ounces against 1,000 caddies, following the frequency and direction of the shock waves. Rumble. With an explosive sound, Chun Hao, who was holding Chun Shui, suddenly turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the barrier in 1,000th of a second before the rebound force arrived. Chun Hao, who'd passed through the barrier and stepped into the 9th Hell wintry pool, suddenly looked up into the sky and let out a long howl that was clear, excited, and filled with boundless venting. His howl surged like continuous thunderclaps, and it shook the entire gorge to the point of lightly trembling. Numerous pieces of shattered rocks rolled down from the nearby mountain, and the small lake that was tranquil like the surface of a mirror had numerous ripples that were suffused with sparkling and translucent sprays of water. From ancient times until now, no one had broken the tranquility. Finally, Chun Hao broke it. Ha ha! After a full 2 minutes of howling, Chun Hao's excited and wild laughter rang out. 7 months and 6 days, more than half a year's time, this was definitely the most pressure Chun Hao had ever endured. He didn't dare to relax for a moment, and was constantly in a high level of comprehension. If it were anyone else, their nerves would have collapsed. If it were Chun Hao himself, he would have been able to pass through the barrier 3 months ago. But because of Qin Shui, he had to make the resonance wave become bigger and bigger. Only in this way could he create enough space for him and Chun Shui to pass through at the same time. At this moment, Chun Hao was holding Chun Shui, who had entered the state of hibernation. How could he not be excited? Death, according to legend, anyone who entered the barrier in this world would die. But he succeeded. Not only did he succeed in entering one of the 10 perilous lands, but he also brought Chun Shui in. The 9-nether cold pond, one of the 10 perilous lands in the boundless world, was located in the origin space. Heaven and earth were filled with a vast and majestic ancient aura, and the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was extremely dense. What was more amazing was that the spiritual chi of heaven and earth here could be directly absorbed without any refining. Moreover, it was the purest origin energy of various attributes. What was the holy land of cultivation? This was it. The so-called holy land of cultivation in the cultivation world, including the miniature heavenly abode in the Sky City, was completely incomparable to this place. Chun Hao's powerful soul perception spread out. The entire space was within Chun Hao's perception. Strange flowers, strange grasses, spirit herbs, spirit trees, even the gravel that had just rolled down from the mountain contained extremely pure energy. The icy azure lake was filled with a dense and pure energy aura. Phew! In more than 7 months, all my losses will be recovered from here 10 times, 100 times. Chun Hao let out a long breath, looked at the entire space, and said excitedly in his heart. Immediately, he looked at Chun Shui, who was like a docile and well-behaved kitten in his arms. Little Shui can actually enter such a deep level of restraint, it's really inconceivable. Fortunately, she has reached this state, otherwise her energy would not have been able to last until now. Let's first replenish her energy and then wake her up. Thinking of this, Chun Hao's figure flashed and came to the lakeside, where there was a large stone that was more round and sparkling than jade, and gently put Chun Shui on it. At this moment, Chun Shui's energy was almost depleted. She was obviously in an extremely weak state. If she hadn't come in yet, then it was time to replenish her energy. Lying flat on the large stone, Chun Shui's soft breasts were tall and straight, and the black robe could not cover her graceful and exquisite body. The thin veil clung to her beautiful face, and her eyes were closed, as if she was in a deep sleep, emitting a temptation that no man could resist. Chun Hao, who was in a good mood, unscrupulously admired her for a full 2 minutes, and the corner of his mouth hooked up into a slightly devilish arc, and he chuckled. At this moment, he could move as usual, and no longer had to worry about the barrier's restraint, and he had 100 ways to instill energy into Chun Shui. But after experiencing this life and death crisis, he did not think of any other methods, and directly leaned down and pressed on Chun Shui's body. There was no ambiguity. Eyebrows to eyebrows, nose to nose, big mouth to small mouth, strong chest muscles to soft but elastic twin peaks. Can't he enjoy the wine today? But can't he enjoy the charm for a short time? He was lucky to survive this time. What if he died? That would be too unjust, too unwilling, too tragic. Feeling the fullness and firmness under his body, Chun Hao secretly praised in his heart, knowing that Chun Shui could not feel anything at this moment, which made this guy as bold as a tiger. Not only did he press on her, but he also rubbed back and forth a few times, until he was afraid that he could not control himself. Then he finally stopped. Gently opening his mouth, he decisively separated Chun Shui's delicate lips, still separated by the veil. In fact, Chun Hao really wanted to take off Chun Shui's veil and really look at Chun Shui's face, but this kind of desire was forcefully suppressed by him. Because, although he did not know the reason, he knew that this veil must have an extraordinary meaning to Chun Shui. Otherwise, why would Chun Shui hide their relationship with a veil? And Chen Hao also knew that this veil was not an ordinary veil. This was Chun Shui's secret, and it was a secret that could not be told to him. Soon, he touched Chun Shui's smooth and soft tongue. Different from when they were in the barrier, this time, although he did not get Chun Shui's response, this guy enjoyed it for a while with the veil between them. It felt good. If he took off the veil, it would feel even better, right? That's for sure. Unfortunately, it could only stop here. They kissed for another 3 minutes. Chun Hao, who did not want to play with fire, finally began to do business. He quickly poured energy into Chun Shui's body. After a while, Chun Hao urged his mind, integrated into Chun Shui's mind, and began to call out, little Shui, wake up, we are out. Out? Are we out? Are we really out? Chun Shui, who was in a state of deep restraint, seemed to be half asleep and half awake. Under Chun Hao's shouts that had the effect of shaking the soul, she stopped chanting like the evening drum and morning bell and said in her mind, wake up, wake up. Chun Hao naturally could not hear Chun Shui's self-talk in her mind and kept shouting. After a while, Chun Shui finally completely woke up, and the first thing she felt was Chun Hao's heavy body and the state she was in with him kissing. At the same time, she also sensed the surrounding aura. Are you awake? That's great. Ha! We just came in. Chun Hao caught Chun Shui's aura, and just at the moment when Chun Shui opened her eyes, he jumped up and said. In Chun Shui's mind, it was as if the two were still in the state of fusion and had just stepped into this place and had not had time to separate. Chun Shui slowly opened her beautiful eyes, as if she couldn't wake up from that deep level of hibernation. Her eyes were squinted, as if a strong light was piercing her eyes. She saw Chun Hao standing in front of her. The little face that was like a sleeping baby gradually turned into surprise, and her eyes opened wider and wider. Immediately, they shone with strong surprise, and she jumped up with an ah. What made Chun Hao surprised was that Chun Shui, who seemed to be in disbelief and too surprised, actually threw herself in his arms, tightly, hugging him. Her arms circled around Chun Hao's neck, her legs wrapped around Chun Hao's waist, and she used all her strength, as if she wanted to merge into Chun Hao's body, or as if she was afraid that if she did not use enough strength, the Chun Hao in front of her would disappear. Author's note: there is no such thing as fairness in the world. It is all about mutual deception, and the weak are prey to the strong. Even if you have a righteous heart, you will still be bullied by others. If you do not want to be bullied, you have to create a world for yourself. I want to break the rules, ethics, and order and build a world that belongs to my heart. Book number 2457289 to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 362. Xiao Shui. Don't be agitated, it's all right now. Chun Hao patted Chun Shui's back and said with a bit of hesitation. He accidentally patted her perky buttocks. At this moment, Chun Hao's figure was as straight as a sword, and Chun Shui was wrapped around Chun Hao's body. More importantly, Chun Shui used so much force that even the righteous and clean Chun Hao couldn't help but think of a certain classic posture when doing something. Chun Shui, who thought that she was going to die, seemed to be very excited, so excited that she couldn't control herself. Even when Chun Hao patted her sensitive, perky buttocks, she didn't have any reaction. She only knew that she used all her strength to hug him, holding her breath, and her delicate body trembled. Only when she used up her breath did she raise her head slightly and stare straight at Chun Hao. Her expression was extremely strange, with surprise and excitement. But more than that, she was still confused. She didn't say a word. Silly? Chen Hao was speechless by Chen Shui's stare. He reached out and pinched Chen Shui's face. Was this girl still sleepwalking? Just when Chen Hao's hand reached Chen Shui's face, Chen Shui, who was separated by a veil, suddenly grabbed Chen Hao's hand, opened her cherry mouth, and bit down with her fine silver teeth shining with snow-white crystals. This made Chen Hao cry out exaggeratedly. Is this real? Is this real? Chen Shui finally spoke. Nonsense. Why don't you bite yourself and see if it's real? Chen Hao said as he pulled out his hand that was covered with teeth marks and saliva. I really don't know if this is an illusion. I feel like I've been sleeping in an illusion for a very, very long time. I can't tell if this is real or not, an illusion or reality. Am I still the original me? I feel like I'm no longer the original me, but it also feels like I'm the original me. Is this real? Is this really real? I don't know. What caused Chen Hao's eyes to open wide was that Chen Shui stared at him. It seemed to be talking to herself as she nagged a great deal, and it seemed like she was interrogating Chen Hao, yet it also seemed like she was talking to herself. In short, she still couldn't figure out if this scene was real or not. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? She was such a beautiful and intelligent girl. Why did it seem like water had entered her head? He had clearly woken up, so how could he not figure it out? How many is this? Chen Hao stretched out 2 fingers and waved them in front of Chen Shui and asked, 2. How many is this? Chen Hao switched from his left hand to his right hand and still held out 2 fingers. 2. Not 2 either. Chen Hao muttered and asked again, Who am I? Chen Hao, my younger brother. Don't ask such stupid questions. I just can't figure it out. Is this really real? Oh. When Chen Shui was about to ask the same question again, Chen Hao decisively took action. He suddenly hugged Chen Shui, opened his mouth, and blocked Chen Shui's small mouth through the veil. This was necessary, and it was his duty. If he didn't give her some stimulation, how could she wake up? Anyway, the 2 of them had been kissing for more than half a year. Although the environment had changed from passive to active, but the essence was the same. He had already set a precedent. So what was there to be afraid of? What was there to be conflicted about? It seemed that you are still too weak. Cooperate with me obediently, and I will replenish your energy. You are sick, and you have to be cured. Chen Hao rudely stopped Chen Shui from struggling, and at the same time, he wildly parted Chen Shui's delicate lips and touched her fine silver teeth. After failing no matter what, Chen Hao sent a voice transmission in a righteous manner. Boom! What Chen Hao didn't know was that at this moment, perhaps because of Chen Hao's sudden action, Chen Shui was frightened. In the depths of her mind, a layer of dazzling, transparent bubbles suddenly exploded. At this moment, Chen Shui felt as if she had walked out of a nightmare. Her mind and body finally became one. Her beautiful eyes were wide open, and there was a trace of panic, a trace of shyness, and a trace of surprise. Panic caused her to be at a loss, shyness caused her entire body to go limp, and shock caused her to open her small mouth. Thus, Chen Hao successfully broke through her defenses and came into contact with that smooth, nimble, and sweet tongue. How could it feel so good? How could it be so good? There was clearly a thin veil, but at this moment, it actually felt as if it didn't exist. In the blink of an eye, it made Chen Hao forget what he wanted to do and immerse himself in this wet kiss that was countless times more intoxicating than the previous few times. Chen Shui, who had finally merged her soul and body with great difficulty under Chen Hao's wild attack, her mind once again exploded and became blank. She felt as if she was floating, and an indescribable feeling floated along with Chen Hao's overturning of the sea in her mouth from dodging, to jerky response, and then to lingering endlessly back and forth after an unknown period of time. It seemed as if the 2 of them had forgotten about time and everything, until the 2 of them slowly fell on the big rock, one on top of the other, and their breathing became heavy. When Chen Shui let out an alluring moan, Chen Hao, who had his eyes closed all this time, couldn't help but want to admire Chen Shui's intoxicated, flirtatious style. But as Chen Hao's eyes slowly opened, This guy suddenly became sluggish and forgot to move, and his eyes turned into copper bells. Under the gentle sunlight, what kind of face was that? Her skin was whiter than snow, so delicate that it could be broken by the wind. Her eyebrows were slender, like willow leaves, like green smoke. Her long eyelashes flickered, emitting a soul-stirring beauty. Chun Hao suddenly got up from Chun Shue's delicate lips. And at this moment, Chun Shue also opened her eyes. Her beautiful face was filled with splendor, but the moment she opened her eyes, she screamed and suddenly touched her face. Cough, cough. It's not me. It's definitely not me. Little Shue, I didn't take off your veil. Chun Hao stared at Chun Shue's soul-stirring little face and said awkwardly, although the black veil was completely unable to hide her appearance. But after really taking off the veil, the beauty that bloomed was completely incomparable to when she was wearing the veil. The visual conflict that it brought was even more out of Chun Hao's imagination. What made Chun Hao surprised was that not only did Chen Xuan not flip out at him, she even trembled and touched her face. Her expression was filled with excitement, and even her voice was trembling. I fused. I really fused. Is this really real? Plop. Chun Hao directly fell to the ground. What the F***CK is going on? What was fusion? What was true fusion? Chun Hao did not have the time to pay attention to it. But the words, "Is this really real?" had been said a few times. Could it be that she still did not wake up? I'm clearly still at the peak of the late stage of the incarnation realm, and I clearly haven't reached the creation realm. So how did I fuse? Chun Shue seemed to be extremely narcissistic as she stroked her little face and muttered to herself. Hey, little Shue, what are you talking about? What fusion? Your illness is very serious. You have to treat it again. Don't come over. When she heard Chun Hao's words and saw that Chun Hao was about to pounce on her again, Chun Shue immediately jumped up. Her expression was nervous, and her face was red as she waved her hand to stop him. You're the one who's sick. I'm not sick. Not only am I not sick, but I'm fine. I'm really fine. You're probably beyond cure, right? Tell me the truth, or else I'll have to treat you by force. Chun Hao really felt a headache coming on, and he felt as if he was a monk who was unable to make sense of the situation. Dream on, taking advantage of me while I'm not awake. Oomph. Chun Shue's little face turned to the side, and she regained her former pride. Her beautiful eyes looked disdainfully at Chun Hao, and the aura around her suddenly rose. What surprised Chun Hao was that in just an instant, the space, which was originally extremely pure and contained all kinds of origin energy, actually condensed into lightning and spatial energy fluctuations above Chun Shue's head. And with a sizzling sound, it fused into her body at a terrifying speed that could be seen with the naked eye. What made Chun Hao even more surprised was that the aura emitted by Chun Shue was so strong that it made Chun Hao feel terrified. Little Shue, this is the secret on your body? Fused? Fused with your veil? Chun Hao looked at Chun Shue's proud expression and asked with his eyes wide open. It's a secret. I can't tell you. The veil has fused. In the future, I don't need to wear it anymore. Chun Shue was like a peacock spreading its tail and said proudly. Soon after, she withdrew her aura and said, Little brother, remember to call me Sister Shue in the future. Is this the Nine Nether Frost Pool? Such pure and majestic spiritual energy of heaven and earth. So many treasures. Little brother, why are you still in a daze? Why don't you accept it? Chun Shue deliberately dragged out the word, little brother, making Chun Hao feel like vomiting blood. Wasn't this girl's strength inexplicably raised by several levels? Her tail was raised. However, Chun Hao couldn't say anything. In terms of address, the two people had already agreed that the strong would be respected. Although the current Chun Shue's cultivation realm did not increase, her entire person's aura was God knows how many times stronger than before she entered. Chun Hao just judged from the aura and knew that it was basically an impossible thing for him to win Chen Shue. Especially in front of Chen Shue. He basically had no secrets, let alone talk about any unexpected trump card. The situation was compelling. What's the hurry? Nobody is snatching it either. The things in this place. Let's not casually touch it for the time being. Why? This is the boundless continent's primordial space. It's the embryonic form of the boundless continent, and the entire boundless continent was also derived from it. Every blade of grass, every tree, every flower, and every rock here has traces of connection with the boundless continent. It's completely a fluke that we can enter. If we touch it carelessly, I'm afraid it will affect the entire boundless continent. You? How do you know? Is there still a need to ask? Of course it's a secret. However, if you call me Big Brother, I might consider whether I should tell you or not. Just pretend I didn't say anything. I have to have a good sleep. You could do whatever you want. Seeing Chen Shui frowning and glaring at him, Chen Hao directly said. After saying that, he directly laid down on the big rock that was as smooth as jade. Have a good sleep? Chen Shui stared at Chen Hao with wide eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 363. Eating, drinking, defecating, and sleeping was a necessity for ordinary people. But to cultivators, it was dispensable. Especially after reaching Chen Hao's realm, it was even more impossible to waste time on sleeping. When meditating and adjusting one's breathing, one could restore essence, energy, and spirit to the peak state. Most likely, only when one was injured and unconscious would one fall into the most primitive and inefficient sleeping state. But Chen Hao actually said that he wanted to sleep. Furthermore, he fell asleep the moment he laid down, and even had light snoring sounds. This appearance was clearly sleepy to the limit. Chen Shui pursed her lips and stared at Chen Hao, secretly thinking, I haven't asked him how long he was trapped in the barrier. But looking at this, it should be very long. Otherwise, with his cultivation, how could he not resist the invasion of sleepiness? But why was he so energetic just now? Thinking of what Chen Hao did with her earlier, Chen Shui's face immediately flushed red. Where was the trace of arrogance on her face? Very clearly, this lass's expression, words, and so on earlier were all to cover up her shyness. Because she was not prepared at all and did not know how to face it. She was even more afraid that Chen Hao would take the next step. Staring blankly at Chen Hao, who was sleeping peacefully under the sunlight, Chen Shui walked toward the lakeside quietly. The clear and tranquil lake surface did not have the slightest ripple, like a mirror surface, clearly reflecting her figure. Spreading out her divine sense, Chen Shui could clearly feel the entire heaven and earth. Here, any item could be called a heaven and earth spiritual item if taken outside. Furthermore, it was the highest grade. If I take a bath in this lake, it will definitely be very comfortable. Forget it. What if I destroy the boundless world? Chen Shui stared at the reflection in the water, suppressing the desire in her heart. Although Chen Hao did not explain, she knew that what Chen Hao said was true. Carefully scrutinizing herself for a long time, Chen Shui turned her head to look at Chen Hao, who was sleeping soundly. After confirming that there was no danger in the entire space, she directly transformed into a wisp of cool breeze and disappeared from the lakeside. When she appeared again, she was already several hundred miles away under the mountain waterfall. There shouldn't be any problems here. What a beautiful cave. Chen Shui looked at the faint seven-colored light inside the waterfall. It was just like the water curtain cave. Of course, Chen Shui didn't know about the water curtain cave. The seven-colored light came from a cave covered by the waterfall. With a flash, Chen Shui passed through the waterfall and entered the cave. Inside the cave, the walls were filled with crystals of various colors. Each piece contained energy that shocked Chen Shui. Even though they hadn't been mined, Chen Shui was sure that every single piece of them contained energy that was much more boundless and pure than top-grade primal crystal stones. Moreover, they contained the profundities of elemental energy. I'll just casually mine a little, and it'll be enough for my future cultivation. Chen Shui's heart swayed as she spoke. He couldn't wait to make a move. However, he could only hold it in. We'll talk about it when he wakes up. In any case, there's only the two of us here. No one can take him away from us. Thinking of this, Qin Shui cut off the greedy thoughts in her mind and quickly took off the black robe. Women naturally loved to be beautiful. If it was not necessary, she would never wear clothes that she did not like, especially in front of the person he loved. This was something subconscious. Naturally, Qin Shui would not think of this. Quickly taking off all the clothes on her body, Qin Shui's perfect body was completely exposed. She lightly jumped into the clear pool of water in front of the cave. 2 months ago, in a tavern in Dragon Cliff City. Fourth brother, why are you being so secretive? Why did you call me here? It's a big matter. It might be a good thing. Otherwise, how would I dare to disturb second brother's cultivation? Ha! In a private room in the tavern, 2 old men with powerful auras met and spoke. Oh, what's the matter? Don't be anxious. Eldest brother and third brother are almost here. It won't be too late to talk about it when the 4 of us are here. F***CK. You're still keeping me in suspense? What's the big matter that even eldest brother and third brother are here? Don't tell me you're so bored that you want us to make a comeback? Make a comeback? Second brother is here too? Fourth brother, what the hell are you doing? At this moment, the door of the private room was pushed open. Another old man came in front of the 2 of them and spoke. This person was obviously third brother. Speak, what's the matter? A dignified voice rang in the ears of the 3 of them as soon as third brother sat down. The 3 of them were shocked at the same time. A figure appeared eerily on the main seat. Eldest brother. The 3 of them stood up respectfully at the same time and called out in a deep voice. Fourth brother, what's the matter? My cultivation has reached a critical juncture. I can only use my divine will to come. Yes, yes. Eldest brother, are you about to ascend to the human immortal stage? Ha, I guess so. There's only a 50% success rate. A 50% success rate. Eldest brother is amazing. The 3 of them were shocked when they heard eldest brother's words. This matter is very important. Let's work together to seal the room first. What? You said the 9 underworlds frost pool might open. Is that true? This, eldest brother, I can't tell if it's true or not. You know that I'm the owner of this tavern. That's why I often receive news. The first time I heard a few cultivators say that they saw a young couple die in there, I didn't find it strange. After all, people often go there to see the 9 underworlds frost pool. Those with weak willpower might die in there. But in the next 3 months, there were several waves of cultivators who talked about it. Moreover, they all describe a young couple wearing a black robe. Moreover, no one could clearly describe their appearance. They said that the fluctuations were very big. They could only clearly see that they were young men and women. This made me feel very strange. Once one fell into the barrier of the 9 underworld frost pond, one would either explode and die, or die like a dead object, waiting for one's energy to run out. It was impossible for them not to see clearly. Moreover, why were they always young men and women in black robes? This was too strange. So, I personally made a trip there. What was the situation? I only saw a black shadow. It seemed to be a couple wearing a black robe. The fluctuations were abnormally violent. What was even more shocking was that I couldn't clearly see the scenery in the 9 underworlds frost pool. Although it was only a small area of the black shadow, this situation was definitely abnormal. After a few minutes, I couldn't resist the temptation of the 9 underworlds frost pool. I temporarily left for a while. When I went there again, I still saw the same black shadow in the same place. This made me certain that during this period of time, everyone must have seen these 2 people. How is this possible? I also felt that it was impossible, but it was the truth. At that time, my shock was indescribable. You should know that even the experts above the human immortal realm couldn't be trapped in the barrier for such a long time. However, how could 2 young people be trapped in there for a few months without turning into ashes? Who else knows about this? No one. No one can look at that place for a long time. Moreover, if you don't pay attention, you won't be able to see such a small dot. Originally, those who saw it wouldn't take it seriously. I only discovered it after listening to several groups of people. When did you go there? Big brother asked in a deep voice. The 3 were obviously attracted by the topic of fourth brother. I went there 3 times. The last time was half a month ago. The black shadow is shaking more and more. Big brother, Do you think that this is a sign that the barrier of the 9 underworld's frost pool is about to open? I can only stay there for 5 minutes. Any longer, and I won't be able to resist rushing down. The 3 of you, act immediately. Guard the area within a few thousand miles of the 9 underworld's frost pool. Drive away any cultivators who want to come close. Don't let anyone know about this. My real body will come over right now. No matter whether it is a sign of opening or not, this situation is abnormal. If it really opens and we can enter at the first moment, we will definitely have an unimaginable harvest. Not to mention human immortals. We can even reach Earth immortals or heaven immortals. Go. Yes. After that, there were several groups of young experiencers who wanted to see the legendary 9 frozen pools one after another. However, before they could get close, they were blocked thousands of miles away by unknown experts. The 4 old men would occasionally appear in the sky above the 9 underworld's frost pool to observe the black shadow that was shaking more and more violently. Although the 4 of them had high cultivation, they couldn't hold on for more than a few minutes when facing the beckoning temptation of the 9 underworld's frost pool. After 2 months, when they checked again one day, they suddenly found that the black shadow had disappeared. The shaking of the barrier also didn't exist anymore. They couldn't see any abnormalities anymore. Through the invisible barrier, he stared at the 9 underworld's frost pond, but nothing had changed. It was as if nothing had happened. This made the 4 of them shocked. Did the 2 people in the black shadow enter it or turn into ashes? In their guess, the possibility of entering it was naturally higher, although this was completely beyond their understanding. But it was the most likely, because if the 2 of them wanted to die, they would have died long ago. How could they hold on for more than half a year? How could they cause such a big shock? Therefore, the 4 of them didn't give up. Instead, they divided into 4 directions and waited in the space of thousands of miles around the 9 underworld's frost pool. Every few days, they would check it out. In the 9 underworld's frost pool, Chun Hao, who had fallen into a deep sleep on the big rock, didn't have any abnormalities at first. He really wanted to sleep. His highly strained nerve for more than 7 months had indeed reached the limit of collapse. After comforting Chun Shui, he couldn't take it anymore. Under the unbearable sleepiness, Chun Hao didn't even have the slightest interest in cultivation. He only wanted to sleep. After a good sleep, he would naturally recover. However, after he slept for 4 hours, the energy of heaven and earth around him began to surge at an astonishing speed. It turned into rays of 7-colored light, crazily converging between Chun Hao's eyebrows. At the same time, tentacles spread out in all directions, like a spider web. Chun Hao, who was wearing a blue dress and had already sat down beside Chun Hao and quietly stared at Chun Hao, widened her eyes in surprise. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 364. How is this possible? Chun Shui could not believe what she was seeing. After nearly 4 hours, Chun Shui had a clearer understanding of the space. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth here was filled with the purest origin energy of various attributes. There was no need to deliberately refine and absorb it. Just breathing in and out would allow one to be in the peak state at all times. However, the energy that could be absorbed was from one's own comprehension. However, at this moment, Chun Hao, who seemed to be still in a deep sleep, seemed to have transcended the restrictions of the energy attribute and was absorbing the origin energy of all attributes. Just this alone was already extremely shocking, not to mention the speed of Chun Hao's absorption. Chun Shui clearly felt that with Chun Hao as the core, the energy of heaven and earth in the surrounding space seemed to have been sucked into a vacuum, causing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth nearby to be replenished crazily. Chun Shui stared at Chun Hao, who seemed to be still in a deep sleep, in shock. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. She did not know how Chun Hao did it, but she knew that Chun Hao must have entered a subtle state at this moment. However, in reality, Chun Hao did not enter a subtle state at all. At this moment, he was really in a deep sleep. He was in a deep sleep and did not have any consciousness. The one who had caused such a huge commotion was the mysterious existence. Chi. In Chunhao's mind, an extremely mysterious rune hovered at the core of the space, absorbing all the origin energy of various attributes. As the amount of energy absorbed increased, the size of the rune continued to increase and the speed of its operation became faster and faster. The space in his mind expanded as the rune increased in size. Originally, there was not much space left after the spiritual spring was filled. However, after a few hours, the spiritual spring occupied less than half of the space and was still increasing slowly. The imprints of the 5 divine beasts and the treasure-hunting sword spirit were also under the control of the mysterious existence, respectively devouring the origin energy that matched their attributes. Standing in the spiritual spring, the lonely immortal fruit tree's branches and leaves were swaying. Its color was slowly changing as if it had undergone a mutation and was growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. 3 days later, the fluctuation of the energy of heaven and earth gradually weakened until it disappeared. The space in Chunhao's mind had increased by 5 times, reaching the limit of fusion between the mysterious existence and Chunhao. The energy contained in the spiritual spring was 100 times purer and denser than before. The immortal fruit tree had grown into a towering tree. Not only had its size and color changed tremendously, even the shape of its branches and leaves had changed drastically. Anyone who saw it would not be able to recognize it as the immortal fruit tree. The 7 colored flowers were evenly distributed among the lush leaves, and there were exactly 365 of them. At the same time, the marks of the 5 godly beasts and the treasure-hunting sword spirit had also increased by 10 times. Before it could merge with Chunhao again, it was already emitting a terrifying aura. Phew, so comfortable. It was only at this time that Chunhao, who was lying on his back with his head in his hands, woke up. He stretched, yawned, and sat up. His entire body was filled with energy like never before. In fact, he had already woken up 2 days ago. However, before the mysterious existence was done, he could only go back to sleep. Anyway, he didn't need to care about it, and it was rare for him to be lazy. "Little brother, what's going on?" Chen Shui, who was already sitting cross-legged beside Chen Hao, could not wait to ask. However, her voice was trembling a little, and she was a little shy and embarrassed. "What's going on? Little Shui, why is your face so red? Are you sick? This needs to be treated." Chen Hao jumped in front of Chen Shui in a flash. His gaze circled around Chen Shui as he sized her up and said very seriously. It was naturally a very pleasant thing to see a beautiful woman when he opened his eyes. However, what surprised Chen Hao was that Chen Shui did not dare to look at him at this moment. Instead, she turned her face to the side. Her face, neck, and even ears were flushed. "Call me Sister Shui. You're the one who's sick. Don't mess around." Chen Shui's face turned even redder as she pretended to be angry. Of course, she knew what Chen Hao meant by treating. She was cursing Chen Hao in her heart. Did she want to blush? Wasn't it all because of you? It's fine to make such a big noise when you're sleeping, but what's the big deal about that? It's fine that you propped it up, but when you got up, why did you have to use your hand to press it so vulgarly in front of me? No matter what, I'm still your sister, am I not? At least avoid it, okay? Chen Hao laughed. This guy was indeed a little baffled in his heart. He did not understand why Chen Shui was blushing. He did not realize his vulgar action at all. In fact, this was a normal thing for men, especially men who were full of vigor. In the legends, which pure man did not have a pillar supporting the sky? If you don't slap it to the side, how can you stand up? What are you laughing at, Liu? Seeing that Chen Hao was still laughing, Chen Shui thought that this guy was doing it on purpose. However, she did not say the word rogue in the end. She changed the topic and said, "What happened to you just now? You can actually absorb all the elemental energy. Could it be that you have comprehended it?" "No, but I can absorb it. Do you want to know the reason?" Chen Hao's lips curled into a devilish arc as he looked at Chen Shui and asked, "No, Chen Shui said without thinking. Even if she thought, he would not say it. If not, she would raise a shameless condition. Why should she make him proud? Then you should hurry up and cultivate. In such a holy land of cultivation, you can't waste time. We can't trigger the heavenly punishment here. In other words, we can at most cultivate to the half-step essence soul realm. As for the things here, I can only do it myself. I can't touch them at all. You can't. This is the primordial space. You don't understand its profoundness at all. Everything is related to the boundless land. It's useless to be jealous. If you touch something you shouldn't, even we will be destroyed here. But don't worry, what's our relationship? What's mine will be yours. You just focus on cultivating and leave the rest to me. All right. After watching Chen Shui disappear into the water curtain cave, Chen Hao's figure flashed and flew to the edge of the valley. Do a carpet search. Don't leave behind anything that can be taken away, Chen Hao said in his mind as he flew. Don't worry. Although there aren't many things here that can be moved, you won't be able to store them all if you collect them all. Moreover, the things here can only be placed in your brain domain. Otherwise, it's useless. The mysterious existence said, let's go and see if we can gather the materials for our fusion. If we can, with the help of the heaven and earth spirit chi here, we won't need primordial crystal stones at all. At that time, I can increase your brain domain by another 10 times. All right, then we'll do as you say. Under the guidance of the mysterious existence, Chen Hao scurried around the valley. He entered one cave after another and picked up countless types of ores. He picked them up and did not mind them. The gravel that casually rolled down could be exchanged for large amounts of primordial crystal stones in the outside world. The ground was filled with treasures, but after spending a total of 3 days and searching through the entire space, he still lacked 3 of the most important materials. This made Chen Hao incredibly gloomy. It was not just 3 materials that were missing, but it meant that he had lost 9/10 of his wealth. It's not even in the primordial space. It seems that these 3 materials can't be produced in the boundless world. But since there are records of them, they must have been obtained by blessed realm experts from the outer world. I can only go outside and try my luck at a large auction house. Damn it, those who are content will always be happy. Besides, it's not like I can't come here in the future. It's just a little troublesome. Let's do it this way. Okay. The mysterious existence also felt that it was a pity and replied. After that, for an entire month, Chen Hao and Chen Shui only met 3 times. They only met because Chen Shui could not help but come out to find Chen Hao. On the other hand, every time he saw Chen Hao, this fellow was like a trash collector. His eyes were sparkling as he looked around, and when he saw something that could be moved, he would excitedly rush over. He would only stop when the space in his mind was filled to the brim and could no longer hold anything. He followed Chen Shui to the water curtain cave and officially began to cultivate. But Chen Shui had nothing left to cultivate. This was because under such favorable conditions, even if he did not train himself in battle, he would not be able to unleash a powerful attack. He had successfully advanced to the peak of the immortal soul stage, and his inner yuan had been converted into the most original form of energy. Therefore, Chen Shui wandered around the space, comprehending the great Tao in nature, admiring the beautiful scenery as she waited for Chen Hao. According to Chen Shui's estimation, Chen Hao, who was at a lower level, would need at least 2 months to reach the peak of the primordial soul stage. And this was taking into account Chen Hao's abnormal strength. Phew! In the water curtain cave, Chen Hao exhaled softly and slowly opened his eyes. A smile naturally appeared at the corners of his mouth. As expected of the origin space, reaching the peak of the primordial soul stage in just over a month. How many primordial crystal stones and time would I need to consume in the outside world? Just this alone is enough to make up for the loss of primordial crystal stones. The only regret is that I can't cultivate any skills, nor can I raise the level of my sword will and attribute mystery. However, after Treasure Hunter and the 5 divine beasts recombined, the combat power of the 5 divine beasts has increased by 4 times. If I combine with them, my combat power will definitely increase by more than 10 times. I should be able to fight an expert of the late primordial soul stage, right? Chun Hao thought to himself and disappeared from the water curtain cave in a flash. You're done? Chun Shui, who was admiring the scenery, suddenly saw Chun Hao appear in front of her and said in surprise, So, little Shui. Little Shui. Ha, it's about time. It's time to leave. Chun Hao smiled slightly and unscrupulously released his aura, which violently pressed on Chun Shui. His handsome face shone with a smug look. Calling her little Shui was not enough, and he even had to emphasize it again. Chun Shui's pretty face, which was originally a little surprised, suddenly became a little dissatisfied and angry under Chun Hao's aura. She snorted and said, Little brother, let's have a big fight after we get out. Don't be so smug. No problem. I guarantee that you'll be convinced. Come, be good and sleep. Remember, it's the deep sleep. Otherwise, a lot of energy will be wasted. You're not allowed to mess around. Don't worry. What's our relationship? Why would I mess around? Hurry. It's already been 10 months. It'll take at least a few months to get out of the barrier. Chun Hao said, I'll update today. Everyone, don't wait. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Come. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 365. As Chun Hao spoke, he walked to Chun Shui's side and held her in his arms as they slowly rose into the air. Chun Shui symbolically twisted her small waist, but in the end, she still blushed and didn't resist. It couldn't be helped. This was a must. Little Shui, I'm about to start. Take a deep breath, don't be too excited, and get into the state as soon as possible. If my stored energy can't support us until we get out, it'll be over. Can't you wait for me to get into the state first? Chun Shui looked at his face and hurriedly hid her face to the side. Her heartbeat and breathing became nervous uncontrollably. Of course, she knew what Chun Hao meant when he said he was about to start. But now that she was awake, how could she bear it? That won't do. Think about it. When we came in, we were able to become one because of luck. If we don't enter in the state, we'll have to waste a lot of time and energy to become one. So, the best way is for us to enter slowly in the state of being one. Don't be embarrassed. What's our relationship? Besides, we've already done it. What's there to be afraid of? Be good. Chun Hao reasoned and spoke the truth with a gentle and doting face. As he spoke, he didn't care about Chun Shui's tangled and flushed face. He gently turned Chun Shui's body around and hugged her. At the same time, his mouth was getting closer and closer to Chun Shui. He stretched out his head and caught Chun Shui, whose neck was tilted to the side, and pressed his lips on her pink and rosy cherry lips. Chun Shui slapped twice and struggled twice. Yet in the end, she fell under Chun Hao's attacks that coexisted both forcefully and gently, and she became a docile lamb that lost the ability to think. Her entire body trembled as if she'd been electrocuted, and then she flew up once more. The speed of their ascension became slower and slower. Chun Hao kissed that smooth and sweet little mouth and felt that this was the most wonderful thing in the world, especially the feeling in his heart. One must know that this time was different from the previous treatment, because Chun Shui was awake. The faint fragrance of a virgin, the plump and elastic squeeze made the two of them hug tighter and tighter. Feeling the rich and wonderful feeling, Chun Hao's large hands uncontrollably started to wander around Chun Shui's graceful waist. But just as he moved, Chun Shui, who was stimulated, pressed Chun Hao's hand tightly. It's not messy yet, forget it. I can't continue. Chun Hao said in his heart, conflicted, young and vigorous, although this brother really wanted to continue, but in the end he didn't dare to. Fortunately, Chun Shui didn't completely lose consciousness. Otherwise, if he took an inch and wanted a mile, he was afraid that he would lose control of himself. Shui, have you kissed enough? It's time to focus and get into the zone. Once we get out, you can kiss me however you want. Chun Hao's voice suddenly resounded in Chun Shui's mind. Although Chun Shui's natural reaction stopped Chun Hao from exploring her body, her flying state caused her to be dazed and immersed in the wonderful kiss. Her nimble and fragrant tongue was no longer jerky. Not only did it respond, it even took a little initiative. At this time, Chunhao suddenly sent a voice transmission to her, causing her to be embarrassed and angry, and she almost spat out blood. He was obviously the one who took the initiative. Why am I not kissing enough? Chun Shui wanted to refute, but in the end, she didn't say anything to this fellow who seemed to be becoming more and more shameless and wretched. What could she say? No matter what she said, she would be taken advantage of by this fellow. Chun Shui waved the sword of reason and cut off the charming and gentle feeling in her mind. She forcefully calmed herself down and gradually restrained her mind. She used an entire 4 times the amount of time to barely enter a clear state of cultivation and started to recite the general outline of the Grand Tao. As they got closer and closer to the barrier, Chunhao didn't dare to act recklessly. Although he was still kissing Chen Shui and hugging her tightly, his mind gradually adjusted to a clear state and sensed Chen Shui's aura. Once Chen Shui really entered the state, it would be the time they stepped into the barrier. After an entire hour, Chunhao took a deep breath and slowly merged into the barrier with Chen Shui, who was in the state of unity. With the experience from when they entered, although the two of them felt as if they had sunk into a swamp the moment they entered and could no longer move, they did not suffer any injuries. As for Chunhao, he immediately began to chant and comprehend. 10 days later, it's appeared again. When Chunhao and Chen Shui entered the barrier for 10 days, an old man who came to check suddenly opened his eyes wide and said excitedly. This old man was the tavern owner who first discovered the abnormality. Originally, after the shock disappeared, there was no movement for a month. This made the eldest brother, who had cultivated to a critical moment, lose his patience and leave first. After 2 months, the second brother and the third brother also lost interest in wasting time and left one after another. Only the fourth brother, who didn't give up, was left. Of course, the most important reason was that he was close to here and had reached a bottleneck in his cultivation. In his entire life, if he didn't have a great opportunity, it would be impossible for him to break through again. Therefore, every 10 days to half a month, he would still come to check. Anyway, he was bored to death. When he came half a month ago, there was no movement. He didn't expect that this time there would be a shock, and the magnitude of the shock was already very violent. He could only vaguely see 2 figures sticking together, but he couldn't see their faces or even their figures clearly. It must be the original 2 people. It must be. No, I must immediately inform the eldest brother and the others. After carefully observing for several minutes, when he was about to be unable to resist the call of the 9th hell frost pool, the old man hissed and quickly flew into the distance. It turned out that when he discovered it, the reason why he informed the other 3 was that he didn't have the ability to monopolize it. To be able to enter the barrier for such a long time without dying and cause a shock, what kind of concept was that? Even if they were young, their cultivation wouldn't be weak. Now that they had entered and come out alive, they would definitely be stronger. Moreover, this 9th hell frost pool couldn't be monitored continuously. Every time he looked at it, it would take a few days for it to truly recover. Otherwise, that summoning power would become stronger and stronger, and if he couldn't control himself, then it would be a tragedy. The old man directly pushed his speed to the limit and flew toward the nearest Dragon Cliff City. He was very clear that with such a strong shock, according to the extent of the previous shock and the time it took for them to disappear, these 2 people would come out in a few days. Their speed was definitely much faster than when they entered. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to reach such a level after not looking for it for only 15 days. 10 days, in just 10 days, the eldest brother, second brother, and third brother rushed over in a hurry, and the 4 of them arrived at the 9th hell frost pool again without stopping. However, the 4th brother was violently beaten up. There was no other reason other than the fact that the entire 9th hell frost pool was as tranquil as before. Moreover, when the 4th brother guessed that the people in the barrier might have broken the barrier and left these few days, the 4 of them used their powerful magical powers to split up and search a radius of nearly 10 million miles. However, they couldn't find any suspicious people and could only leave resentfully. Phew, that was close, The four of them simply didn't know that when they split up and started searching at the edge of the barrier, Chun Hao and Qin Shui, who had merged with all things in the world, were shocked to the point of breaking out in cold sweat and let out a sigh of relief at the same time. 20 days. With the experience of entering last time, coupled with the fact that Chun Hao's mind and soul strength had an astonishing increase, and more importantly, his true essence had become the purest origin energy. What surprised Chun Hao was that he actually used only 20 days to break through the barrier. However, when he came out, he didn't expect to encounter such a powerful expert. If Chun Hao and Chun Shui came out an hour later, they would definitely be miserable. Or if Chun Hao took advantage of Chun Shui a little longer and didn't wake her up, they would also be miserable. Similarly, if Chun Hao's soul perception wasn't so abnormal, and if the two of them didn't merge with all things in the world, they would also be miserable. Out of the four experts, three of them were at the peak of the advanced stage of the manifestation realm. Just one of the three of them was enough to make Chun Hao and Chun Shui unable to fight, let alone three of them, not to mention a half-step human immortal expert. Fortunately, this barrier concealed some of our aura, or we definitely wouldn't be able to hide from the elder with the highest cultivation. Chun Shui said with lingering fear. Even a half-step human immortal came out. Our luck is really good. Let's get away from here first. As long as we don't meet any half-step human immortals, the other three won't be able to find us. Half a month later, two gusts of wind flew through the void as fast as lightning. Their speed was so fast that even a mid-stage manifestation realm expert couldn't compare. Both of their auras were extremely powerful, but their cultivation levels were at the half-step primordial soul realm. These two were Chun Hao and Qin Shui. In the beginning, the two of them had been in the state of merging with all things in the world, moving forward at a moderate speed. It wasn't until 5 days ago, when they were sure that the four experts wouldn't catch up with them, that they completely released their aura and raised their speed to the limit. They had already crossed a distance of tens of millions of miles. Xiao Shui, it's about time. We haven't met any cultivators within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. This is it. Chun Hao stared at the barren mountains below, his eyes shining brightly. All right, then let's cultivate here for a while. Chun Shui said. MMS. The two of them held hands and landed on a huge mountain peak. The night sky was clear, and the stars were shining brightly. Gusts of cool mountain wind carried with them the faint aura of demonic beasts from outside the domain. Perhaps it was because the spiritual energy in this space was not abundant. There weren't any powerful demonic beasts within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The two of them didn't waste time looking for a cave. Instead, they released their energy, and in just a few minutes, they dug out a space with a radius of a few hundred feet on the huge mountain peak. After that, Chun Hao and Chun Shui used all their true essence to set up a powerful seal to protect the entire cave, making it their temporary residence. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 366. During the day, the two of them would either fight in the space of 1,000 miles or split up to hunt extraterritorial beasts in the nearby tens of thousands of miles to increase their combat strength. Although the uniqueness of a 9-nether frost pool allowed the two of them to reach the peak of the half-step primordial soul stage, their ultimate moves and battle techniques did not increase in their realms. If they were to directly trigger the heavenly punishment at this time, the results would not be good. Therefore, the two of them stopped and raised themselves to the peak of the half-step primordial soul stage in all aspects. After a month of this, Chun Shui continued to fight despite repeated setbacks. Moreover, she risked the danger of receiving Chun Hao's treatment every time. This made Qin Shui more and more sensitive and confused. Chun Hao was a hot-blooded man to begin with. Compared to a woman who couldn't help herself, he was even more ferocious. Every time he was treated, he would burn with lust. Countless sparks flew from the friction between the two of them. However, every time Qin Hao took the initiative and was about to be honest with her, Chun Shui would always be able to maintain her last shred of rationality and hug Chun Hao tightly, unable to move at all. However, Chun Hao was not very anxious. In his opinion, the time was not right yet. If he worked hard for a while more, success would naturally follow naturally. This was because he could feel that Chun Shui's line of defense was gradually collapsing. In fact, if he wanted to use force, he would succeed with half a push and half a push. It had to be said that this fellow had already reached the stage of unbearable. His heart was rippling and overflowing. If he continued to hold it in, he was afraid that he would suffer from internal injuries. Moreover, this seemed to have become the knot in his heart before he triggered the heavenly punishment. Although he knew that if he took this step, he would have to face his parents, Chun Shui's mother, and many other factors that might cause disharmony, he did not care. What gentle home or hero's grave in front of the knot in his heart all became unimportant. The only thing to blame was that Chun Shui, who was wearing a blue dress and had lost her veil, was too alluring, especially when the two of them were together all day long. Even Lu Xiaohui would not be able to resist. Chi Chi Chi, three sword lights that were peerlessly fierce and indescribably formidable, carried a wild aura of unsatisfied desire as they directly annihilated a demon beast at the intermediate stage of the Essence Soul Realm. Platinum sky-piercing slash, consecutive ultimate moves. Phew! Without using the sword intent or the 5 divine beasts, I can barely defeat a primordial spirit intermediate stage, primordial spirit realm, demonic beasts. In the void, Chun Hao, whose clothes were in tatters, frowned deeply and thought to himself. Compared to a top genius cultivator, he only has the combat strength of someone who has just stepped into the primordial soul realm. If I were to fight with my full strength, I'm afraid I'll only be able to fight evenly with an early primordial spirit expert. What if I were to fight a monstrous genius from the central mainland? Chun Hao shook his head with a self-deprecating smile. When he was at the 9th frozen pond, he was still full of confidence that he would be able to contend with an expert at the late stage of the primordial soul realm after stepping into the half-step primordial soul realm. But now, it seemed that it was simply impossible. At the primordial soul realm, one spirit and nascent soul would become one and would already possess a trace of indestructible aura. Without absolute power and suppression of the realm, even if one could kill the primordial soul realm, it would only be the physical body. The primordial soul realm, on the other hand, would be able to flee thousands of miles away in an instant. This also meant that even if Chun Hao faced an early primordial soul realm cultivator, he did not have the confidence to kill him. Unless it was an extremely unintelligent and fearless cultivator like the extraterrestrial soul realm cultivator, only then would it be possible. Secular sword principle, sword will, physical body, true yuan, platinum, sky-piercing slash. I've already reached my limit. Only my state of mind is a little lacking. One knot in my heart. I didn't expect that I, Chun Hao, would also be caught in a knot in my heart. More or less, I was influenced by the secular sword principle. Chun Hao muttered to himself. During this period of time, the most important cultivation every night was to comprehend the secular sword principle. Under the various illusions, Chun Hao's temperament had already unknowingly undergone a huge change. If Xia Yuyu, Helian Wuzi, and Tantai Lian were here at this moment, they would probably not recognize Chun Hao. How is this still the Chun Hao who only had cultivation in his heart? Only Chun Hao, who was always with him, could imperceptibly accept the change in Chun Hao's personality. But as long as one compared before and after, one could still discover the huge change in Chun Hao. It was just that Chun Shui did not feel that it was sudden. Forget it. Tonight, just tonight, even if I have to use force, I have to untie this knot in my heart. Obviously, I can give in half-heartedly. If I wait, wouldn't I be worse than a beast? Chun Hao took a deep breath and said with his beast blood boiling. Just thinking about it made his dantian feel hot and dry. He directly turned into a stream of light and quickly flew towards his temporary residence thousands of miles away. Chun Shui possessed a magic treasure that her mother specially refined for her, which was the jade slip that was given to Chun Hao. As long as they were in the same space, even if they were separated by 100,000 miles, Chun Shui would be able to sense Chun Hao's existence. Therefore, during this period of time, although the two of them were training separately during the day, they would return to the cave every night to meditate together. Moreover, as long as Chun Shui could sense Chun Hao's aura, when Chun Hao returned, she would also return. The difference in time was absolutely not too great. But Chun Hao, who had already made up his mind and excitedly returned to the vicinity of the cave, waited for an entire 2 hours. Within a radius of 3,000 miles, there was still not the slightest trace of Chun Shui's aura. 3,000 miles was the limit of Chun Hao's current soul perception. Why hasn't little Shui returned yet? The impatient Chun Hao secretly said in his heart, but he was not worried. After all, he had returned more than 2 hours early today. At this moment, the sky was still bright. But 4 hours had passed. When the sky was completely dark, Chun Shui still had not returned. This made Chun Hao unable to sit still. He hurriedly left a message in the cave and quickly disappeared into the night, feeling a little anxious in his heart. If she did not return at this time, there was only one possibility. She must have encountered danger or fallen into some kind of predicament. Could it be that she met a powerful cultivator? Chun Hao thought to himself as he flew in the direction that Chun Shui left in at the fastest speed. It was rare for cultivators to appear in this area, but it was not extinct. In the past month or so, he had met a few groups, and they were all experts of the Essence Soul realm. That's unlikely. Even if it was an expert of the creation realm, as long as it was not a half-step human immortal, little Shui would be able to hide in time. How could she be trapped? The two of them had always been cautious in this training area that was beyond their realm. With their powerful soul perception, once they discovered cultivators approaching, they would hide and try their best not to get into trouble. And it was even more impossible for the demonic beasts within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles to trap Chun Shui. Then what was going on? Chun Hao could not figure it out. He could only frantically increase his speed and push his soul perception to the limit to capture the aura around him. The fire of desire in his heart had long been extinguished. In an hour, Chun Hao had flown tens of thousands of miles. But what made him more worried was that in this boundless wilderness, even if he knew the direction that Chun Shui went, it was undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Moreover, Chun Hao flew very regularly, as if he was doing carpet search. Within the range of his senses, he flew in and shape, searching around the cave. He believed that as long as Chun Shui sensed his flight path, she would definitely know that he was looking for her. But as time passed, until late at night, there was still no trace of Chun Shui. Old God, can you use the jade slip to lock onto Chun Shui's position? In desperation, Chun Hao had to ask in his mind. Old God was the name that he defined for the mysterious existence. During this period of time, the increase of contact, it was really awkward to call him you. After I gather the materials and fuse them again, I should be able to, but not now. My ability is limited. Damn it. When will I gather the materials? It's already so difficult to fuse with you in the incarnation realm. If it's in the primordial soul realm or the creation realm, how can I fuse with you? I can't do anything about that. The mysterious existence said speechlessly. He was so awesome. If it was so easy to fuse with him, wouldn't it be great? After cutting off the connection with his mind, Chun Hao frantically increased his limit again and again, and his expression became cold and lofty. At the same time, he was extremely depressed. Ever since he met Chun Shui, it was always Chun Shui who bumped into him or took the initiative to look for him. He did not know any way to directly contact Chun Shui, nor did he know where Chun Shui and her mother were. The only way to contact Chun Shui was through Lung Yihan. But this was not the Eastern continent. When Chun Hao was frantically searching for Chun Shui like a monkey that had eaten garlic, Chun Hao did not expect that above the void, two figures were staring at him from afar and following his footsteps. One of them was wearing a blue dress and had a graceful figure. Who else could it be but Chun Shui? But at this moment, Chun Shui's face was full of resentment. Her beautiful eyes were filled with sparkling tears as she grabbed the person beside her tightly. Master, I beg you, just tell him that I'm fine, okay? Silly girl, Master is doing this for your own good. Men are all the same. The easier it is to get something, the less they know how to cherish it. You also heard what he said. He only wants you because of the knot in his heart, and because of Tianfa. No, Master, he's just saying. That's definitely not his true intention. What do you know? Although Master has cut off a part of his memory. But I can't cut off everything. You are Master's daughter. How can Master not think for you? You're right to listen to Master. This kid is hiding a huge secret and has unlimited potential. How old is he? How many women does he already have? Those three have all entered the limitless immortal palace. Furthermore, they have already become the focus of nurturing. If you continue to follow him, even if you're lucky enough to truly fuse with it, you will still be overshadowed by his brilliance. In the end, you will become dispensable, especially after he obtains it. So you must go with Master. First, go to the Middle Continent. Master will arrange your future cultivation path. Go. Let him find you. Master, don't worry. When the time is right, Master will let you meet him. Go. Hiss. The void was suddenly torn apart. Immediately, Chen Shui was forcefully taken away by her master, who was also her mother. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 367. 3 days and 3 nights. Chen Hao didn't stop for even a moment. He searched a radius of 100,000 miles, but not to mention Chen Shui. He didn't even see the shadow of a cultivator. Chen Shui seemed to have evaporated into thin air. She didn't leave behind a single word, nor did she leave behind any traces. She just completely disappeared. During these 3 days and 3 nights, Chen Hao, who was circling around the cave, returned to the cave more than once. Every time, he was filled with hope that he would see that graceful figure in a blue dress again. Even if she was heavily injured, as long as she appeared, as long as she wasn't dead, it would be fine. But every time it was empty. Only the words he left on the cave wall were clear. Chen Hao, who had always been calm and collected, knew clearly that a radius of 100,000 miles was the limit. It was just that Chen Shui had no reason to go too far in order to train during the day and return to the cave. But even though he knew that it was almost impossible to find Chen Shui, he still didn't give up. He couldn't accept the ending that kept appearing in his mind. He couldn't believe that it would be such an ending. Starting to follow the direction that Chen Shui went to train, Chen Hao began a detailed search. Not only did he use his soul perception, he also used his eyes. If she was alive, he had to see her. If she was dead, he had to see her corpse. Even though he didn't dare to think about it, he had to do it. In this desolate area, how could Chen Shui leave without saying goodbye? There was only one possibility. It was an accident. An entire month passed in the blink of an eye. Besides the necessary recovery, Chen Hao searched a radius of 100,000 miles, every corner, every cave. But he didn't find any clues. For the first time, Chen Hao felt despair, powerlessness, and even numbness. Dragging his heavy body, Chen Hao didn't even know how he returned to the cave. He was still hoping for a miracle. Before entering the cave, he even retracted his soul perception. He wanted to see that graceful figure. He had never desired to see a person so much, but the miracle didn't happen. Pong! A fist smashed into the hard rock ground. His entire fist went deep into the rock. Inside the cave, there was still Chen Shui's aura and the restriction she set up. But Chen Shui couldn't come back. It's about time, right? If this continues, I'm afraid he will go crazy. It's about time. Why don't you remind him? In Chen Hao's mind, the mysterious existence and treasure hunter's sword spirit were secretly communicating. It was not that the two of them knew where Chen Shui went, but they knew that Chen Shui would definitely not be as pessimistic as Chen Hao imagined. You're messed up because you're concerned. Leave me alone. The treasure-hunting sword spirit had just opened its mouth and said something in a meaningful tone when Chen Hao roared furiously and directly cut off the connection. Cough, cough. Why are you so angry? Crazy? Don't tell me he's already crazy. The treasure-hunting sword spirit was both embarrassed and shocked. Was this still the Chun Hao who used to be so calm that it made people's hair stand on end? The power of emotions is actually so strong. It's only been a few days, and it's already become like this. This is the strongest power of the human race. It's a power that you and I will never be able to truly understand or control. Don't pretend to be profound. Just say it directly. Otherwise, he wouldn't even care about you. The mysterious existence said. Chun Hao, don't forget that she has the celestial venerates will left behind by her mother. The celestial venerates will. The treasure-hunting sword spirit did not pretend to be profound this time, and directly said it loudly in Chun Hao's mind. Although Chun Hao's current ability could cut off the connection with the treasure-hunting sword spirit, it would not be a problem for the sword spirit to take the initiative to contact him again. As the saying goes, being too concerned makes one confused. You're thinking too much now? Although I don't know what happened to her, it's definitely not as pessimistic as you think. So what if it's the celestial venerate's will? Chun Hao finally did not directly scold the treasure-hunting sword spirit. Instead, he asked coldly, the celestial venerates could only allow one to escape from an essence soul expert. If one encountered a creation expert, even a miniature grotto heaven condensed from the celestial venerates would be useless. How could Chun Hao not have thought of this? Chun Hao was indeed confused, but it was not to the extent that he had lost his ability to think. There was only one explanation for Chun Shue's disappearance. She had met with a mishap. An essence soul expert was not qualified to trigger the celestial venerates in Chun Shue's mind. She could have escaped by herself. What did that mean? It meant a creation expert. A creation expert had the ability to condense a miniature grotto heaven. Even if Chun Shui could trigger the celestial venerate's will and escape to a miniature grotto heaven to recover, so what? A creation expert could destroy a miniature grotto heaven with a wave of his hand. No matter how strong a celestial venerate was, it was only a wisp of will. It was not so strong that a creation expert could not contend with it. A celestial venerate's will is indeed nothing much, but don't forget that Chun Shue's celestial venerate's will was set up by her master, her mother. If Chun Shue's celestial venerate's will was activated, how could her mother not know? How could she not come over if she knew? You've been searching for more than a month now. Even if Chun Shui is dead, her mother would have found you long ago. Also, Chun Shui is only holding a jade slip refined by her mother, and she can sense your presence at any time. Do you think her mother can't sense her presence? Old God wanted me to tell you that the origin space can block all auras. In other words, Chun Shue's mother was definitely vigilant when you entered the origin space. Treasure Hunter's sword spirit spoke of the deduction of the mysterious existence in a single breath. When he heard Treasure Hunter's sword spirit speak in this way, Chun Hao's scarlet red eyes that seemed to be on the verge of going mad finally flickered with a wisp of the light of contemplation. Even though we're unable to confirm exactly what happened, we know that Chun Shue's life is definitely not in danger. The most likely possibility is that her mother took her away. Impossible. Even if little Shui wanted to leave, how could she not inform me? She wanted to inform others, but what if others didn't give her the chance? Especially during this period of time, if you in Chun Shue's every move is being watched by her mother, think about it. Chun Hao was speechless from Treasure Hunter's sword spirit's words, and the expression on his face changed indeterminately. After an entire few minutes, Treasure Hunter's sword spirit suffered a tragedy. A thunderous F***ck your mother almost shattered Treasure Hunter's sword spirit's eardrums. Of course, the prerequisite was that he had eardrums. F***ck with all your strength. My mother's a man. Treasure Hunter's sword spirit replied gloomily. Motherfucker, so what if you're my master? I reminded you out of goodwill, yet you scolded me. If you want to F***ck me, then F***ck me. Motherfucker, even the expert that created me is dead. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Huh? You made me painstakingly look for you for over a month. An old god, F***ck me. Don't f***ck me, my mother is a man too. Not telling you is for your own good. If you continue cultivating the secular sword Tao, you might be able to break through. Of course, this is only my speculation. I'll only know the specific situation when I see Chen Shui again. You'd better make the best use of your time to cultivate and advance your realm. It's not good to be played around by others. Invoke the heavenly punishment. Even though your mental state isn't a perfection, it won't affect you much. Then go directly to the central continent and gather the materials we need to fuse. Secondly, see the world. People can't be without pressure, especially people like you. Before we gather the materials, we won't disturb you anymore. Everything depends on you. Chun Hao was just about to say a few more words, but the mysterious existence directly cut off the connection with him. Motherfucker, it's really possible that my every move is being monitored. Otherwise, why didn't you tell me? Chun Hao, who was enlightened, finally returned to normal. His scarlet eyes finally regained clarity, but at this moment he was conflicted, especially when he thought that his and Chen Shui's actions might have been watched by the nameless old man, his father's first wife. He felt even more uncomfortable. Chen Shui was her precious daughter that she had carried for over 100 years. If he did that to her, without saying a word, wouldn't that be too disrespectful to his elders? Could it be that he heard me talking to myself and knew that something was going to happen tonight? So he forcefully took little Shui away? It's very possible. Otherwise, why didn't he leave after so long? Why did he leave that night? His mouth is cheap. Motherfucker, you can just think about it in your heart. Why did you have to say it out loud? Now it's good. Papa. Chun Hao gave himself 2 slaps. His heart was filled with depression and shame. He could imagine if the nameless old man really heard him talking to himself. What kind of feeling would he have? In front of the old man's mother, he said that he was going to push her daughter. The fact that he wasn't slapped was already a sign of his good temper. Oh, Chun Hao let out a long sigh of relief. It was only at this moment that he felt completely exhausted and was on the verge of losing all his strength, especially the mental exhaustion. It was even more tiring than the 7 months he had spent in the 9 frozen pools. With a bang, he lay down with his arms and legs spread out. He wanted to sleep like this, but he immediately sat up again. He entered into a state of cultivation. There was no other way. This was not the 9 frozen pools, where he could quickly recover by sleeping. With a thought, he activated the space in his mind. Instantly, the spirit spring water filled the bath that he had dug earlier. His entire person was immersed in it. The current spirit spring water, compared to the original spirit spring water, was hundreds and thousands of times stronger. Such a small pool was enough for Chun Hao to cultivate for 10 days to half a month. Moreover, when the energy was about to be exhausted, Chun Hao only needed to take it back to the space in his mind, and it would automatically replenish the energy. In just a period of time, it would become exactly the same as before. Chun Hao did not know how the mysterious existence did it, but he was very satisfied with this effect. This meant that, as long as his spirit spring water was not wasted, it could be used up forever. The only pity was that ordinary water could not be mixed in, otherwise it would really be used up endlessly. In a short time, Chun Hao became naked, naturally suspended in the spirit spring water. What a pity, what a pity. If this accident hadn't happened, I would have been able to take a bath with little Snow a month ago. Cough, cough. I can't have such thoughts anymore. A calm heart will naturally cool down. Cultivate, cultivate. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 368. 10 days later, just as the mysterious existence had said, Chun Hao's understanding of the secular sword principle had improved greatly. As for the so-called knot in his heart, it had disappeared because of Chen Shui's departure. Although it did not really disappear, he had lost the opportunity to burn firewood. Moreover, he did not have to face the charming Chen Shui every day. Naturally, the impact would be reduced to a minimum. After a year, Chun Hao had once again triggered a heavenly punishment, a half-step primordial soul stage heavenly punishment. In this desolate area, no one had seen how terrifying Chun Hao's heavenly punishment was. No one knew how much pain Chun Hao had suffered when he resisted the heavenly punishment. Even more so, no one knew how much improvement Chun Hao had obtained from the heavenly punishment. Only the fluctuation of heaven and earth spirit chi and the collapse of several giant mountains within a radius of nearly 10,000 miles had witnessed the terror of Chun Hao's heavenly punishment. On that day, countless extraterritorial demon beasts fled in all directions in horror. Crack, eh? In the central mainland, in a palace that looked like a fairyland, a graceful woman was immersed in cultivation. However, a slight vibration suddenly came from her mind, causing her to open her eyes abruptly. She was slightly surprised. She has broken through to the primordial soul stage? This girl can really forcefully raise her realm to the incarnation stage. I thought it would take at least 2 or 3 years for her to reach the perfection of the incarnation stage in all aspects. I didn't expect her to advance to the primordial soul stage in just over a year. This graceful woman was none other than the female immortal supremacy who had hosted the Eastern Mainland inter-sect competition, Immortal Supremacy Yunwei. A year ago, she had received news from the Limitless Immortal Palace's law enforcement disciple that Chun Hao and Chun Shui had killed 30 top genius disciples from the Western Mainland. 4 of them were disciples who had obtained the Guardian Order from the Western Mainland's inter-sect competition. Although the top geniuses of the Southern Sea Islands were not worth mentioning in her eyes, they were disciples who had obtained the Guardian Token and would more or less be of use in the future. It was indeed a pity to die like this. She had wanted to remind Chun Hao and Chun Shui not to kill too much, but in the end, she did not do so after considering their talents and potential. Moreover, although the 2 of them had obtained the Guardian Token, they had another identity. She didn't want to interfere too much. Exalt Yunwei felt the aura of Chun Shui's Guardian Token vanishing and thought in her heart, it doesn't matter whether she has it or not. There's no need for me to worry about her. Besides, Yu Little Wu and Little Yin are my disciples. I should fight for my disciples. She was naturally aware of the relationship between the 4 girls and Chun Hao. Moreover, Chun Hao was the only person she couldn't see through. To what extent could he achieve in the future? Even she couldn't figure it out. Since he was no longer able to take him in as a disciple, it wouldn't be wrong to use his own disciple to tie him down, right? Moreover, when she chose the 3 girls, it wasn't just because of their talents that she liked. Once a disciple who obtained a Guardian Token stepped into the primordial spirit realm, it would automatically disintegrate and disappear. This was also the rule that the Limitless Immortal Palace implemented in consideration of the growth of the disciples of heaven and earth. If they were always protected in a greenhouse, how could a true genius be born? Crack! Just as Venerable Zi Wei was about to immerse himself in meditation again, a slight cracking sound came from his mind. This time, her eyes widened in surprise. This little guy has also broken through. This time, she was really surprised. Lung Yihan, also known as Qin Shui, could break through. Although she was a little surprised, she knew the secret contained in Chun Shui's body. So, she was only a little surprised. However, Chun Hao being able to break through at this time shocked her. Less than 20 years old. Primordial spirit realm. Amazing, really amazing. Even among the monstrous geniuses of the Central Continent, he could be ranked in the top 10. And he's just a disciple who rose step by step from the 100 Empire role to the cultivation world. His cultivation environment and conditions can't be compared to those monstrous geniuses. If he had a good environment since he was young, what realm would he reach? I'm really looking forward to it. No, I have to speed up the pace of the 3 girls. After a brief shock, Venerable Zi Wei directly disappeared from the palace. Heavenly Mist City. It was a city jointly controlled by the Immortal Dao, the Demon Dao, and the Devil Dao. It was the only city connected to other regions in the Heavenly Mist region, which was countless times more powerful than the Eastern Continent, the Western Continent, and the Southern Sea Islands. Like Emerald Smoke City, it was independent of the cultivation world. but its scale and population were several times larger than that of Emerald Smoke City. At that moment, the city walls that stretched for tens of thousands of miles were densely packed with cultivators. There were even dozens of Blessed Realm experts. All of them stood proudly at the top of the city walls and stared at the intense battle outside the city walls, as well as the hordes of other realm monsters that continuously surged in from all directions. Beside each creation realm expert, there were countless young disciples gathered. Most of them were at the peak of the late nascent soul realm, half-step incarnation realm, and incarnation realm, and very few were at the primordial spirit realm. These young disciples were at the nascent soul realm, half-step incarnation realm, early incarnation realm, and middle incarnation realm. They were all sitting cross-legged, and there were countless people who were seriously injured. Obviously, they had experienced a fierce battle, and they were all trying their best to recover from their injuries. As for the peak of the late incarnation realm, half-step primordial spirit realm, and primordial spirit realm experts, they were in high spirits, and their fighting spirit was rising. Their eyes were bright as they stared at the young experts who were fighting the demon beasts outside the city wall. From time to time, there would be bursts of cheers, exclamations, and screams. The cheers were naturally for the disciples who had displayed great combat power and killed the powerful demon beasts. Some of the exclamations and screams were from the terror of someone, and some were from people who had died under the fangs of the demon beasts. Batches of people came up to heal and recover, and batches of people went down. The strength of the young disciples who went up became stronger and stronger. "Grandpa, let's go." On the tall, wide, and imposing city wall, there were two young girls who were constantly being watched by countless youths. When a new batch of demon beasts rushed over, they looked at an old man at the peak of the late creation realm beside them and said, the old man was tall and mighty, and his body was surrounded by a monstrous demonic aura. He was obviously a demonic cultivator, but his demonic aura did not make people feel the slightest bit of evil. On the contrary, it gave people a feeling of vastness, grandeur, and majesty. The two young girls who stood beside the old man and asked to fight had seductive figures, charming and enchanting looks, and were exactly the same. They were obviously twin sisters. Their dressing was also exactly the same. The only difference was that one of them wore an exquisite and beautiful bracelet on her left hand, while the other wore it on her right hand. If there was no difference, no one would be able to tell the two of them apart. The two young girls were at the peak of the half-step essence soul realm. Like the old man, they did not have the slightest bit of evil aura. It was very obvious that they were orthodox demonic cultivators. Go. Be careful, don't go too deep. The beast horde this time will probably reach the 5th level. Don't try to be brave, understand? Don't worry, Grandpa. We know what to do. The two young girls said at the same time. Their expressions were the same, and their figures were the same. After they finished speaking, their postures were the same. They instantly turned into a stream of light and rushed into the dense demon beast horde through the crack in the restriction that the old man had opened. At the same time, there were many peak late-stage incarnation realm and half-step incarnation realm experts on the city wall that spanned tens of thousands of kilometers. Some cultivators who could not hold on risked their lives to return to the city wall. Before the beast horde arrived, there were no signs. It came quickly, but it left slowly. Under normal circumstances, a 4th-level beast horde would last for 10 days. A 5th-level beast horde would last for 12 days. This was an existence that all the cities outside the cultivation world had to resist. It was also a time to test the strength of each city. Every time a beast horde occurred, there would be countless cultivators who could not return to the city in time. They would be drowned in the beast horde and die without leaving a trace. The strength of a city was determined by the baptism of tens of thousands of years. In areas where the beast horde was numerous and strong, the city would naturally be strong. If it was not strong, it would have been drowned by the beast horde long ago. It had to be said that the battle against the beast horde was an excellent opportunity for cultivators to hone themselves. Facing the endless demon beasts from outside the realm was the best time to test one's perseverance, hone one's combat skills, and break through one's limits. Therefore, under normal circumstances, creation realm experts would only make a move at the last moment. They would give the opportunity to the young people to hone themselves. Similarly, the arrival of the beast horde also meant that it was time to reap the rewards. The inner cores of the demon beasts from outside the realm, especially those of powerful demon beasts, were priceless treasures. The beautiful sisters have appeared. The two demon beauties have just entered the half-step essence soul realm. I wonder what amazing performance they will have. It's said that either of them has the ability to defeat an expert at the peak of the early stage essence soul realm. If they join forces, they're even more terrifying. Even an expert at the mid-stage essence soul realm is no match for them. Senior brother Feng Yun. It's said that Mo Wuching from the Mo clan lost to Lung Ninggle in the free-for-all arena 7 days ago. Is that true? It's true. Moreover, it was only 10 moves. Although Mo Wuching has just advanced to the Essence Soul Realm, Lung Ninggle was able to defeat him in 10 moves. This is enough to prove that she has the ability to defeat an expert at the peak of the early-stage Essence Soul Realm. Lung Ninggle and Lung Ninghuan's strength and realm are basically the same. The power of the twin sisters when they join forces is naturally several times stronger. Even if I were to meet them, I might not be able to defeat them within 100 moves. That can't be. Senior brother Feng Yin, you are at the peak of the mid-stage Essence Soul Realm. You're the third strongest expert among the younger generation in Misty Cloud City. The young man who was addressed as Feng Yin smiled and shook his head. He did not say anything else. There was a hint of passion in his eyes as he stared at the two beautiful figures charging into the beast horde. Similarly, a small number of young Essence Soul Realm experts stood on the city walls. Regardless of whether they were male or female, immortal, demon, or monster, their gazes were locked on the beautiful sisters, Lung Ninggle and Lung Ninghuan. No one knew that within the beast-tide army that stretched for almost 500 kilometers, there was a young man whose entire body was covered in blood and stains. His snow-white Taoist robe had been ragged since a long time ago and had turned blood red, and his entire body was covered in injuries of various sizes. His entire spirit, energy were extremely low as well. However, his eyes still emanated a fierce, firm, an almost insane glow as he ceaselessly moved closer and closer to the city that was only 500 kilometers away. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 369. The densely packed demonic beasts that blotted out the sky and covered the earth were nothing to this young man's cultivation. However, their fearlessness and relentless attacks caused his injuries to worsen. This was especially so for the commander-level demonic beasts in the foreign domain. Once they appeared nearby, they would make the young man their first target to be killed. This young man was Chun Hao, who had stepped into the primordial soul realm. After triggering heaven's punishment and successfully stepping into the primordial soul realm, Chun Hao only spent half a month in seclusion in the cave to consolidate his realm. He didn't know where he was, but when he met several Incarnation Realm cultivators, he found out about the nearest city, Heavenly Mist City. However, he didn't expect to encounter a terrifying demonic beast horde when he was 15,000 miles away from Heavenly Mist City. They blotted out the sky and covered the earth, and there were countless of them. Even though Chun Hao's mental fortitude was astonishing, he was still extremely shocked and depressed when faced with the endless demonic beast army. This was the legendary beast horde. Why did he encounter it? Moreover, it suddenly erupted when he was about to enter the city. Cracks that resembled black holes tore through the void and descended from the sky. Chun Hao couldn't avoid them at all. It was impossible for him to retreat. After Chun Hao stepped into the primordial soul realm, his powerful soul perception soared to a radius of 10,000 miles. The spatial cracks that erupted in the void behind him were much stronger and more densely packed than the area he was in. Heart mantras that allowed him to merge with all things in the world were useless in the face of powerful concealment techniques and overwhelming demonic beasts. Moreover, Chun Hao knew that even if the demonic beasts weren't very strong, and he was only 15,000 miles away from heavenly Mist City, the chances of him successfully surviving the beast horde were very, very low. Once a cultivator who was training outside encountered a beast horde, the chances of him surviving were very low. Even if it was just a grade 3 beast horde, it was enough to kill a late-stage primordial soul realm expert. Moreover, the scale of the beast horde might be grade 5 or even higher. There was no road to heaven and no door to hell. If he flew in the sky, he might be swallowed by the spatial cracks. Unless his cultivation was above the creation realm, he would directly disappear from this world. How could he escape? The only thing Chun Hao could do was to kill his way to the nearest city. This was the only way to survive. 3 days, an entire 3 days from the beginning of the beast tide to now, Chun Hao had not stopped for a moment. One man and one sword madly slaughtered their way forward. During this time, they encountered several groups of cultivators, and they watched helplessly as they died under the trampling of the demon beast army. There were even several mid-stage primordial spirit realm experts who had run out of energy and were dismembered by the demonic beasts. On the first day, Chun Hao had already reached the point where he was like a lamp that had run out of oil. Even though there was a mysterious existence constantly replenishing his energy, it was simply not enough to satisfy such a level of battle. This consumption was simply incomparable to the time when he was at the barrier of the 9 frozen pools. The mysterious existence's replenishment of energy was only 1 in 10 million, or even 1 in 10,000. How could it satisfy such a crazy battle demand? However, Chun Hao relied on his strong willpower to support himself and his ability to utilize energy to the extreme to minimize his consumption. When it was necessary, he didn't hesitate to pay the price of injuring his body in order to save energy. He tried his best to persist and move forward again and again. He broke through his own limits. On the first day, he advanced 20,000 miles. On the second day, he advanced 8,000 miles. Wherever he passed, he didn't see any more cultivators. On the third day, until now, he had only advanced 2,000 miles. However, in front of Chun Hao, it was so close yet so far. After an entire day, he had only advanced 1,000 miles. 1,000 more miles. The mysterious existence madly gathered the energy in the spirit spring to replenish Chun Hao's energy. However, it was just a drop in the bucket. Apart from the persistence in his heart, Chun Hao's spirit was on the verge of withering. If it weren't for the amazing recovery ability of the immortal bloodline, he would have collapsed long ago. At this moment, he was completely relying on his willpower to support himself and enter a trance state. However, every sword strike he sent out contained a terrifying sword will. With the smallest consumption of energy, he obtained the greatest effect. It seemed to have become his most instinctive reaction. Moreover, fortunately, as he got closer to the city, the demon beasts became weaker and weaker. If they were still like the demon beasts from 30,000 miles away, Chun Hao would have died no matter how powerful he was. 1,000 miles. The last 1,000 miles. Chun Hao saw hope. His withered spirit suddenly squeezed out some more. The 5 elements, sword in his hand, madly killed the demon beasts in front of him. He couldn't remember how many demon beasts and commander-level demon beasts he had killed. He knew that the inner cores of these demon beasts were very valuable, but he didn't have the time to collect them. No matter how valuable they were, he had to be alive to enjoy them. Moreover, Chun Hao was now a nouveau riche. Even if the things he picked up were trash in the 9th Frost Pond, they were absolutely priceless in the world of cultivation. Roar! At this moment, the aura of demon beasts blotted out the sky from the cracks in the space again. A new wave of demon beasts from the outer domain had come in. Middle stage primordial soul, F*CK. Chun Hao, who had just seen hope, recovered a little from his trance. He didn't expect that a new wave would begin again. What did this mean? He He had already seen and sensed it. It was a commander-level demon beast at the intermediate primordial soul stage. In the blink of an eye, the demon beast that blotted out the sky and covered the earth came down like locusts. Apart from the commander-level demon beast at the intermediate primordial soul stage, the other demon beasts were much stronger than the one Chun Hao was facing now. If Chun Hao was in his peak condition, or if he had enough true core, he would definitely be able to kill a commander-level demon beast at the intermediate primordial soul stage as soon as he stepped into the early primordial soul stage. But now, he didn't have the strength to do it. Looking at the commander-level demon beast at the intermediate primordial soul stage only shaking its head, Chun Hao was really scared when it charged at him like the other demon beasts he had encountered before. He was very clear that with his current condition, he couldn't do anything to this commander-level demon beast at all. With no other choice, Chun Hao suddenly summoned the true core in his dantian and let out a long howl. 1,000 miles, 1,000 miles. He believed that his howl would be heard by all the cultivators in Heavenly Mist City. Being proud and arrogant, he didn't call for help even under such circumstances. Instead, he chose to howl. In the cruel world of cultivation, what was the use of calling for help? Rather than calling for help in a servile manner, it was better to fight to the death and escape with one's primordial soul. A few years later, one would be a hero again. But not calling for help didn't mean that Chun Hao didn't want to be rescued. The reason why Chun Hao let out a long howl was that he hoped to meet a kind-hearted person. There was no other way. Chun Hao really couldn't bear to part with his body that was becoming stronger, more handsome, and more manly. Everyone loved beauty. Even Chun Hao didn't love beauty. But this abnormal and special body of his couldn't be found anywhere. After letting out a long howl, Chun Hao gathered a small amount of true core and stabbed the commander-level demon beast at the back of his hand. At the same time, he continued to charge toward the city with all his might. He didn't know whether there were kind-hearted people or not, but he definitely couldn't rely on kind-hearted people. The one he really had to rely on was himself. When the two beautiful sisters heard Chun Hao's howl, they tacitly looked at each other, feeling a trace of surprise and astonishment. They had gone deep into the demonic beast horde for hundreds of kilometers. Big sister, who's so bold as to go deeper than us? Lung Ningle asked while killing demon beasts that weren't much of a threat. We'll know once we go and take a look, Lung Ninghuan said. Although the duo's perception could extend for thousands of miles, it was undoubtedly a fool's dream to capture the aura of a cultivator in this beast tide. Forget about them. Even the blessed realm elites on the city walls didn't have such fine senses. Hence, they could only go and take a look to figure out. Shik. The two people attacked at the same time with their swords. There was no need for words. The two people who had a tacit understanding of each other cooperated with each other. They flew at a low altitude, and rays of sword light cut down the demon beasts that pounced on them madly. They quickly went deeper in the direction of the howl. The sisters knew very well how terrifying the monster horde was. Even though they were relaxed now, that was because they were in peak condition. If it had continued for 4 to 6 hours, it definitely wouldn't have been so easy. Of course, the two of them also knew that it would be very dangerous if they went deeper. The deeper they went, the stronger the demon beasts they would encounter. However, the two of them were fearless. The source of the howl was at most 1,000 kilometers away. Before a new monster horde came, they would have no problem killing them back and forth. Someone come? I can't take it anymore. No, I can do it. Boom, boom, boom. Perhaps it was because his primordial spirit had fled, but Chun Hao's spirit seemed to have returned to him as the situation became more and more dangerous. He became extremely lively, and despair didn't affect his heart at all. He roared in his heart as he frantically defended against the attacks of the commander demon beasts and the numerous demon beasts. Are you here to help? Chun Hao's powerful, sharp, and abnormal soul perception, even in the chaotic aura of the demon beasts, was able to do something that ordinary cultivators couldn't do. He could clearly identify two demon chi that were different from the demon beasts outside the domain. They were quickly and directly approaching in his direction. Demon Dao women. Immortal, demon, and Demon Tao have always been at odds. But when resisting the monster horde, we must be united against the outside world. They shouldn't cause trouble, right? Damn it. As long as they don't cause trouble. If they are willing to help me, I can even repay them with my body. Demon Tao women don't seem too bad. Cough cough. F***CK. It's already at this point. How can I still have such thoughts? Chun Hao scolded himself in disdain. He didn't know that his understanding of the secular sword Tao was getting deeper and deeper. Although his essence hadn't changed, his personality had already undergone an astonishing change. In addition, during this period of time, because of the extreme temptation brought by Chun Shui, when he couldn't help but think of the enchanting beauty of Demon Tao women, it gave birth to some kind of physiological throbbing. But it was only a little. Men, especially men who were dissatisfied with their desires, would hide their heads in their pants and think about problems at certain times. This was a common thing. As long as they didn't really do things with their pants, they were good men, right? Chun Hao was a good man. This, he himself was sure. But that didn't mean that he didn't have any thoughts. If you like this work, you are welcome to come Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 370. They were only 400 to 500 li away, and Lungning Lu and Lungning Huan had just started fighting not too long ago. They were both in their peak condition. In addition, the beast horde was very weak, especially those that were too close to the city. Therefore, the two of them were advancing at a very fast speed. Chun Hao was like a dragon in shallow waters and a tiger in the plains. He was only a commander in the middle stage of the primordial soul realm. If he was in peak condition, he would be able to kill this huge sow with just a strand of his leg hair. However, he was now facing a tortoise that was making it difficult for him to move forward. Moreover, the situation was getting more and more dangerous. The only thing he could hope for now was that the two Demon Tao ladies could help him get rid of this old sow. In that case, even if they did not care about Chun Hao's life or death, Chun Hao was confident that he could hold on until he entered the city. Otherwise, Chun Hao could only abandon his beloved physical body and escape with his primordial soul. It can't be, right? When the sisters clearly saw a young man who was neither human nor ghost desperately fending off a horde of demonic beasts, especially a demonic beast that resembled an old sow, but was dozens of times larger than the demonic beasts, they immediately revealed a look of extreme shock. What kind of a tragic scene was that? The two beautiful sisters simply could not imagine how this young man, who was completely naked, whose clothes were ragged, whose body was covered in blood, whose body was riddled with wounds, and whose face was riddled with wounds so deep that his bones and flesh could be seen, could still be alive. How could he still have the strength to fight? Although this young man's aura was obviously at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, how weak was his essence, chi, and spirit? How weak was his true origin? However, the young man was still swinging his sword. The true origin contained in each strike was too weak in the eyes of the sisters. However, the sharp sword will and the sword Tao attribute that was filled with the aura of destruction in each strike was exceptionally shocking. What shocked the sisters even more was that this ugly young man was still emitting a bright, sharp, and soul-stirring radiance under such circumstances. Could he have encountered a beast tide when he was training outside? When did such a young expert appear in Heavenly Mist City? Moreover, he was a young expert who had comprehended the sword Tao attribute of destruction. How long had he been fighting to become like this? In an instant, countless questions popped up in the hearts of the sisters. Just by looking at the young man's current appearance, it was certain that the young man had been fighting for a very, very long time. At least a day, right? A cultivator of the immortal Tao. Sister, should we save him? An immortal? Lele, do you want to save him? Lung Ning Huan and Lung Ning Lu stared at each other in shock as they asked in unison. You want to save? All right, let's save him. Even if we do, we might still die. The two of them spoke at the same time, without missing a word. Both of them could see the shock and admiration in each other's eyes towards Chun Hao. Yes, it was praise. Although they didn't know how long Chun Hao had been fighting for, the fact that Chun Hao could still persist in his current state was enough to earn their admiration. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. Most importantly, the other party's life aura was clearly very young, but he was already an early-stage primordial spirit realm expert. In the entire heavenly mist city, he was one of the strongest. Of course, the most important reason why the two of them chose to save him was because of their family. Although they cultivated demonic cultivation techniques, and their families were orthodox demonic cultivators, the blood of cultivators of the immortal Tao flowed in their bodies. Strictly speaking, the heavenly mist city's Lung family was a neutral family between the immortal Tao and the demonic Tao. The moment the two beautiful sisters appeared, Chun Hao was immersed in an extremely dangerous battle where he could die at any moment. However, his mind was still at ease. The only thing lacking was his energy and condition. Therefore, he naturally saw the two women clearly. Not only were they beautiful demonic cultivators, but they were also the legendary beautiful sisters. Each of them was a rare beauty. When the two of them were placed together, it was even more alluring. Of course, Chun Hao didn't have any other thoughts at this moment. He was only concerned about whether these two beautiful demonic cultivators would become good people again. Finally, when the two beautiful sisters brandished their swords at the same time and launched an extremely powerful attack towards the commander demonic beast that resembled an old sow, Chun Hao heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. The two beautiful sisters were only half a step away from the primordial spirit realm, but the combat power they displayed together surprised Chun Hao slightly. When he sensed their auras, he already knew their realms. Moreover, based on the speed at which they were advancing, he could roughly estimate that their strength was enough to defeat this large sow. However, he didn't expect that when the two of them worked together, their combat power would actually increase by several times. With just one move, they had shaken the old sow into retreat. At this moment, the two beautiful sisters swished to Chun Hao's left and right sides. With a flash of sword light, they forced back all the low-level demonic beasts. They grabbed onto Chun Hao's left and right arms respectively. One of them blocked the incoming old sow, while the other killed the incoming low-level demonic beasts. "What's your name? Where are you from?" asked the beautiful demonic cultivator who was killing the low-level demonic beasts. She was the younger sister, Lung Ninglu. Her voice was crisp and carried the natural charm of a demonic cultivator, causing Chun Hao to be slightly stunned. Of course, Chun Hao wasn't bewitched by the beauty, and it was even more impossible for him to be bewitched by her voice. He just didn't expect that the two beautiful demonic cultivators would not only help him block the old sow, but also protect him on both sides as they returned to the city. "My name is Chun Hao. I'm from the cultivation world of the Eastern continent. Thank you for your help," Chun Hao said in a deep voice. His voice was calm, and there wasn't even a trace of trembling. This caused the two beautiful sisters to be even more surprised. They were very clear that with Chun Hao's current state, if he met someone to save him and relax his mind, even if he didn't faint, he would fall into extreme pain. However, Chun Hao, who was covered in wounds that revealed his bones and flesh, was still so calm and composed. "Eastern continent? Then, Lulu, let him heal. This is like the final radiance of the setting sun. I'm afraid he won't make it if we wait any longer." Just as Lung Ning Lu was about to ask another question, Lung Ning Huan stopped her. "Oh, then hurry up and heal your wounds. We sisters are called Lung Ning Huan and Lung Ning Lu. She's the older sister, and I'm the younger sister. We saved you. If you don't survive, your things will belong to us. If you survive, you have to follow us sisters and be our subordinate. I don't know what you look like, but don't be too ugly. Otherwise, it'll affect our impression. This is the rule of the demonic cultivators. You should understand, right?" Cough, cough. "I understand," Chun Hao said with a conflicted face. Unfortunately, with his face full of scars, it was impossible to see. Chun Hao was very clear that the lively demonic cultivators were telling the truth. Moreover, they said it very nicely, changing the word servant to subordinate. This was the rule of the demonic cultivators. Chen Hao had known this for a long time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said, "I'll give myself to you." It's good that you understand. Hurry up and heal your wounds. It's really surprising that you're able to reach primordial spirit realm at such a young age in the Eastern continent. Did you win the Intersect tournament? Hello. Go ahead and heal your wounds. Hearing her sister's words, Lung Ning Lu immediately shut her mouth. This was the difference between sisters. Although Lung Ning Li's question was what Lung Ning Huan wanted to ask, Lung Ning Huan's rationality was able to control herself. On the other hand, Lung Ning Lu couldn't. Can I borrow 2 primordial crystal stones? To the sister's surprise, Chun Hao actually said such a thing. Don't tell me you're so poor that you don't even have enough primordial crystal stones for cultivation? If you die, won't we? Cough, cough. As long as you can hold on, I won't die. Don't worry, I'm not ugly. I won't affect the city's appearance. Moreover, I'm a primordial spirit realm cultivator. My combat strength is high, and my character is good. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. As for the primordial crystal stones, I've used them all up, Chun Hao boasted. He had no choice. Although the 2 ladies didn't look evil, the distance from here to the city was close to 1,000 miles. It would take a lot of effort to carry a severely injured person. If the 2 of them felt that he was worthless and didn't save him, then it would be a tragedy. Or primordial crystal stones. However, no matter how precious the stones in his mind were, he couldn't refine and absorb them like primordial crystal stones. He couldn't use the spirit spring water at this time either. Moreover, he had already used up all his primordial crystal stones. He didn't even have a single strand left. It was too slow to rely on the mysterious existence to waste precious spirit spring water and absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth. In particular, Chun Hao was very worried that there would be another accident. With his sharp senses, he could clearly feel the tremors in the void. It was filled with danger. Therefore, he had to recover some of his combat strength as soon as possible. All right, here you go. Hurry up and heal your wounds. Lung Ning Lu smiled and handed 2 primordial crystal stones to Chun Hao. Thank you, Chun Hao said, holding the 2 pieces of primal crystal stones. Chun Hao took a deep breath as his entire body trembled slightly. The pain brought about by the huge injuries and weakness all over his body was definitely not something an ordinary person could endure. However, this kind of pain was not a problem for Chun Hao's tenacious nerves. On the other hand, Chun Hao slowly closed his eyes and multitasked. A strand of his mind was paying attention to the battle between the 2 of them while reciting the general outline of the Grand Tao. At the same time, he tempered primal crystals and circulated more and more true essence within his dantian to quickly repair his heavily injured body. However, he was a little more thoughtful. Not only did he not heal the wounds on his body, but he also used his mind to prevent them from healing quickly. The immortal bloodline was one of his secrets and also one of his life-saving trump cards. He definitely couldn't let these 2 unfamiliar girls of the demonic Tao know about it. Under the cover of the sisters, the 3 of them quickly approached the city. The old sow with a tough scalp and thick flesh refused to let go, greatly hindering the speed of the 2 girls. Moreover, the 2 girls were only at the half-step primordial soul realm. It would not be easy for them to kill this old sow. If they were at the city's borders, the 2 girls would not hesitate to join forces and kill it. However, they were almost 1,000 miles away from the city. They could not afford to expend too much energy. These 2 girls, I told them not to show off, but they ran away without a trace. The aura of the beast tide is getting stronger and stronger. Could be a grade 6 beast tide? It should be fine. On the city wall, the sister's grandfather stared at the densely packed beast tide and thought to himself, to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 371. The Beast Tide was a rare opportunity for young cultivators to hone themselves. Since it was a form of training, it was impossible for them to rescue them at any time. Furthermore, under the protection of the barrier in the city, even a blessed realm elite could only wait for the sealing barrier to be activated if they wanted to go out and save people. Under normal circumstances, the barrier would open once every 6 hours. The young cultivators who could not hold on outside would return, while the young cultivators in the city would join in the battle. Only when the level of the demonic beasts had reached a level where the young disciples could no longer resist would the older generation experts act in batches. Even so, it was impossible to completely exterminate the beast tide. They could only stop the beast tide from approaching the city and hold on until the beast tide disappeared. As for the demonic beasts that were not killed, they would disappear into the wilderness and become targets for the cultivators in the future. Moreover, under the cover of the beast tide's aura, even manifestation realm experts would not be able to lock onto the cultivator's aura. The only thing they could take note of was what they could see with their eyes. But now the two girls had gone deep into the area where the old man could not see. In addition, the aura of the beast tide was getting stronger and stronger, and the ripples in the air were getting stronger and stronger. The old man could not help but worry. 2 hours later, all the young disciples began to approach the city. Some of the weaker ones had already formed small teams to resist the endless tide of beasts. At this moment, there were only 2 hours left before the barrier would open. Why are there so many? Sister, what should we do? In the depths of the beast tide, the beautiful sisters brought Chun-Hao 100 miles closer to the city. What made the two of them frown and worry was that the detestable old sow seemed to be in heat. It let out a series of boar roars that shook the heavens and the earth. It actually attracted the powerful commander demonic beasts within a radius of a few hundred miles to gather around them, forming an encirclement. This greatly affected the speed of the beautiful demon sisters who were carrying Chun-Hao. They also felt great pressure and danger. If this continued, not to mention returning to the city before the barrier opened, even staying alive would be a problem. Lele, lend me 2 more primal crystal stones. At this moment, Chun-Hao, who had one arm wrapped around his waist by Lung Ning Lu, suddenly spoke again. Huh? Hearing Chun-Hao's words, the beautiful sisters were both stunned. Only then did he notice that the primal crystal stones in Chun-Hao's hands had already turned into fragments. It was obvious that they had been completely refined. Those were 2 pieces of high-grade primal crystal stones. How could they be used up so quickly? Moreover, Chun-Hao was seriously injured. Similarly, the way Chun-Hao addressed Lung Ning Lu also made her frown slightly. Lele was a nickname that only her sister, grandfather, and parents gave her. Even other family members had to respectfully call her second Mississippi. Quick, a new batch of beasts is about to enter the beast tide, and it will definitely be stronger. Chun-Hao urged, his voice carrying a hint of command. Here, just as Lung Ning Lu was about to pinch her nose in dissatisfaction, Lung Ning Huan took out 2 peak-grade primal crystals and stuffed them into Chun-Hao's hands. Sister, he doesn't know how to be polite, Lung Ning Lu said to Lung Ning Huan unhappily when she saw that Chun-Hao had entered a state of cultivation after receiving the primal crystals. His life aura is younger than ours by a few years. To be able to reach the primordial spirit realm in such a backward place like the Eastern continent, it would be abnormal if he didn't have some pride. Lele, have you seen anyone who can refine primal crystals so quickly? And he's seriously injured? We save his life this time. Maybe he can help us get back at him. How dare he call me Lele? He doesn't know our identities, only our names. He called you Lele because he thinks we're close. It's nothing. Oh, don't be distracted. Let's get closer to the city. This beast tide has exceeded my grandfather's estimation. It's probably going to reach the 6th level. Judging from the fluctuations, another batch of powerful beasts should be arriving soon. Leave him to me. Whoosh! Lung Ning Huan took out a whip and coiled it around Chun-Hao, tying him to her back in an instant. He stood back to back with his sister, Lung Ning Lu, blocking the powerful commander-level beasts summoned by the old sow as they desperately approached the city. Chi-chi. In the void, the cracks in the space once again emitted a dazzling light and a terrifying aura. The experts on the city wall, even those in the creation realm, had a grave expression on their faces. It was obvious that the level of this beast tide had exceeded everyone's expectations. Why haven't the two girls appeared yet? The old man was really anxious now. The last batch of commander-level beasts was already at the mid-stage primordial spirit realm. How strong would the next batch be? However, the sisters were still nowhere to be seen within a few hundred miles. How could the old man not be anxious? He was well aware of the combat strength of the two sisters. A mid-stage primordial spirit realm beast might not be able to do anything to them, but it would take a lot of effort to kill them. How long could they last in this terrifying beast tide? Even if there were no powerful beasts now, the two sisters would not be able to last for 12 hours. They had to return to the city wall before the boundary opened this time. However, as time passed, there was only an hour left before the boundary opened, but the two sisters had not appeared in his line of sight. Everyone, let's work together to set up a defense. More powerful beasts are coming. Quick, let's gather together. Not far from the city wall, countless young disciples had grave expressions on their faces. Many of them were already seriously injured. The huge change in the sky at this moment meant that the following battle would be even more thrilling. It was also the time to test their abilities. Chi, as the crowd gathered together. Countless beasts descended from the cracks in the space like a plague of locusts. They covered the sky and the earth as they pressed down. In just an instant, everyone was so shocked that they sucked in a breath of cold air. The lowest level beasts were at the peak of the late-stage incarnation realm. For every 1,000 beasts, there were 100 half-step primordial spirit realm beasts, 5 early-stage primordial spirit realm beasts, 2 mid-stage primordial spirit realm beasts, and 1 late-stage primordial spirit realm beasts. Such a terrifying lineup made all the young disciples who were fighting change their expressions drastically. Some of the weak-willed ones were so frightened that they almost wet their pants. The aura of death shrouded everyone. Below the city wall, which had a circumference of 10,000 miles, countless young disciples formed a joint defense formation. There were hundreds of them, and there were nearly 1,000 of them. Some of them recovered at the core, while a small number of them blocked all the beasts outside. Then, they continuously changed positions to reduce their energy consumption. They waited for the barrier to be activated. Even though it was only an hour, it was undoubtedly a life-or-death situation for everyone. Those who could persevere would be able to survive. Those who could not persevere would only die. All primordial spirit realm elites, get ready. The scale of the beast horde this time might surpass the 6th grade. This is a test for Heavenly Mist City. It is also the largest beast horde in the past 100 years. All blessed realm elites, please immediately enter your positions and strengthen the barrier. A loud and majestic voice resounded through the entire Heavenly Mist City. In an instant, countless elites who were still in the city flew into the air. They flew toward the city wall. As for the true experts in the Blessed Realm and the other leading figures of a region, they activated a plate and entered their own positions. Protecting the city was their duty. The barrier seal of the entire city had to be maintained by the Blessed Realm elites. What did it mean to surpass the 6th grade? This was no longer the time for the young disciples to train themselves. This was because they would only be courting death if they went out. Regardless of their age, as long as their cultivation base was above the primordial spirit realm, they would have to do their best to kill the beasts. This had already evolved into a battle to protect the city. The barrier was the last line of defense. When the beautiful sister's grandfather heard the loud and majestic voice in the air, he swept his gaze over the endless beasts for the last time. He no longer held any hope. At this moment, they had not gathered with the others to form a joint battle formation. What hope did they have? They were his 2 most beloved granddaughters, and they were the 2 most talented granddaughters. But now, he was powerless. He could only suppress his feelings of regret and sadness and throw himself into his position to protect the city. The moment he left, his gaze suddenly narrowed when he saw his beloved granddaughter. What surprised him even more was that Juan was carrying a person whose face he couldn't see clearly at all. They were 200 miles away. Were these two girls crazy? How could they save someone in such a dangerous situation? If there was no beast tide, they could cover 200 miles in an instant. But now, what did 200 miles mean? The old man was happy, shocked, and angry. He was happy because he finally saw his two precious granddaughters, and they were not seriously injured. He was shocked because the two of them were carrying a person who was obviously seriously injured. He was angry because they were in such a dangerous situation. Why were they saving someone? The old man wished he could rush over and beat up his two kind-hearted granddaughters. The old man clenched his fists tightly. Even his beard was trembling. At this moment, he could only pray that his two precious granddaughters could explode with power that exceeded their limits. Otherwise, he knew very well what they would face. The beautiful sisters of the Lung family. F***ck your mother. Sisters at a time like this? Kill them. It's over, it's over. They're finished. My goddesses, they won't live. I don't think I'll survive either. If I can die with them, I might be reincarnated as their big brother next door. Oh my God, if I really die, please fulfill my wish. F***ck off. Look at your face. Are you worthy? I'm not worthy. Are you worthy? When the beautiful sisters appeared in front of everyone, some of the disciples who were in a joint battle formation actually exploded in anger because of the beautiful sisters in such a dangerous situation. It could be seen how popular the beautiful sisters of the Lung family were in heavenly Mist City. Unfortunately, at this moment, the two of them were clearly in a dangerous situation. No matter how beautiful the flowers were, they would probably wither. Lung Ning Huan is carrying a person. Who is that person? This is 2F** King Blissful. To be able to have intimate contact with the beautiful sisters, it's worth it even if I die. Angels of the demonic Tao are kind-hearted. In such a dangerous situation, they still want to save people. I've completely fallen. Let me die for them. A young cultivator who was seriously injured and was clearly struggling to hold on suddenly burst out with a shocking power under the stimulation of the beautiful sisters. As if he had gone crazy, he shouted loudly, "My angels, I'm coming to save you." Unfortunately, before he could even take 100 steps out of the battle formation, he was crushed into a bloody mist by a terrifying demonic beast. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 372. Roar. A late primordial soul realm demonic beast finally flew into a rage when it saw that almost 10 mid-primordial soul realm demonic beasts were unable to kill the two puny humans even after such a long time. Its mountain-like body suddenly pressed down from the sky, causing the locust-like demonic beast to retreat in all directions. The terrifying aura was like Mount Tai. Even if the sisters were at their peak condition, they would not be able to fight against this late primordial soul realm demonic beast, let alone the fact that they had already expended a lot of energy. Two screams came out of the sisters' mouths at the same time. At this moment, both of their minds were focused on Chun Hao. The two of them had not given up on Chun Hao for two reasons. Firstly, they were indeed kind-hearted. Secondly, although Chun Hao was severely injured, he was still an early primordial soul realm expert. Even with their sexy little buttocks, they knew that Chun Hao's combat strength was absolutely terrifying. Otherwise, he would not have been able to survive until now. Furthermore, the two of them could clearly feel that Chun Hao was recovering quickly. The aura that he emitted at this moment was enough to make them feel terrified. Therefore, when a new batch of powerful demonic beasts arrived, they already knew that they could only place their hopes of charging into the city on Chun Hao. Is it time to make a move? The two of them thought at the same time under the pressure and terrifying aura that they could not resist. However, even as the mountain-like body of the demonic beast descended, Chun Hao remained unmoved. It's over. What a pity. In the distance, the disciples who were temporarily resting in the battle formation and waiting for their replacements were all watching the sisters. At this moment, everyone's eyes were wide open, and their feelings of pity were overflowing with words. Roar. At this critical moment, seeing that the terrifying demonic beast was about to reach them. The sisters no longer harbored any hope. Just as they joined forces to unleash their strongest attack against the demonic beast, a deafening roar suddenly rose into the sky. At this moment, a bright golden light lit up the sky like a scorching sun, illuminating a radius of hundreds of miles. An incomparably huge figure suddenly rose above the sisters' heads like a phantom. The mythical Qilin. It was filled with an ancient aura. The deafening roar of the Qilin contained a force that could destroy heaven and earth. The Qilin's huge claws attacked. Rumble. There was an earth-shattering explosion as the mountain-like body of the late-stage primordial spirit realm demonic beast was sent flying into the void like a shooting star. At the same time, Lung Ning Huan and Lung Ning Lu suddenly felt an extremely pure and violent energy pass through their Ming Men and into their bodies without any side effects. The two of them were instantly replenished. The two women showed a shocked expression at the same time, not understanding why Chun would do this. Could it be that he was still immersed in some kind of secret technique and was unable to make a move? How could the energy that was poured into his dantian be completely absorbed by these two demonic cultivators without any side effects? All sorts of shocking questions appeared in their minds. However, this was obviously not the time to be shocked. In a short moment, the two of them let out two clear and melodious roars under the surge of pure magic power. The sisters became one, tightly holding Chun Hao back to back as they violently charged towards the city. On and outside the city walls, countless people had already locked onto the Lung sisters the moment the divine beast Qilin appeared. It can't be so strong. How is that possible? The Lung sisters actually have the divine beast Qilin's inheritance? And such a powerful Qilin inheritance? I'm afraid only those who have reached the mid-stage primordial spirit realm can unleash such power. On the city walls, Wu Fengyun, who was ranked third among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City, let out a long sigh of relief when he saw the two beautiful figures. He was rather surprised as he said, "Phew, they're stronger than I thought. I didn't expect them to be hiding such terrifying strength." His tone was also filled with uncontrollable joy. They're still alive? They actually have the Qilin inheritance? Oof. Their strength has indeed increased very quickly, but there's still no match for me. You too be asterisk cheese. Don't even think about snatching them from me. On the other side of the city walls, there was a graceful young lady who was like a fairy. She exuded an extremely powerful aura, and it was obvious that she was already at the peak of the mid-stage primordial spirit realm. There were no clues on her beautiful face at all, but in the depths of her eyes when she looked at the Lung sisters, there was a glint of coldness and disdain. This was especially so when she saw that the handsome young man beside her was also staring at the Lung sisters. This made the young lady even more furious. These two were the most dazzling existences among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City. In the past 10 years, there was no one among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City who could rival them. The young lady was Mo Yuxian, who was ranked second among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City. She was also known as Fairy Yu. However, in the past 2 years, her title as the most beautiful genius had been gradually replaced by the Lung sisters, who were gradually rising. Just based on this point alone, she, who was proud and arrogant, couldn't stand it. Moreover, it was because of the young man beside her that she loved the most. This young man was ranked first among the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City, and he was known as the monstrous genius of Heavenly Mist City. Shimin Wenjian from the Shimin family had made a name for himself in the Central Continent. He was a swordsman at the peak of the late-stage primordial spirit realm, and he had condensed his sword will into a sword soul. His combat strength was unfathomable, and he was the leader of the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City. No one could shake him. Little you, are you disappointed to see them come back alive? Shimin Wenjian asked calmly. Don't worry. Although I'm interested in these sisters, how can they be compared to you? We have feelings for each other for several years. The older one will definitely be you. The Lung family has always been neutral, and if we can deal with them, our Shiman family will surely be able to unify Heavenly Mist City. This is also the reason why we came back to Heavenly Mist City. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Make some preparations. There is still more than 10 minutes before the barrier opens. It's time for us to display our strength. Miss Lung, come quickly, come quickly. Everyone, listen carefully. Let's get closer to Miss Lung and provide support. Okay, it's our duty to rescue the angels. As the beautiful sisters of the Lung clan got closer and closer to the city, countless youths in the alliance battle formation closest to them howled as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Even if some female cultivators had some opinions about taking the risk to get closer to the two ladies, they couldn't stop them. This was the principle behind the saying, the people's hearts are irresistible. Moreover, although there were only more than 10 minutes left, the demonic beast attacks were becoming more ferocious and violent. The frequency at which the battle formations were exchanging attacks was also increasing, and there were people dying or being heavily injured at almost every moment. Looking at the Lung sisters' ferocious advance amidst the demonic beasts, everyone understood that the sisters joining their ranks would only strengthen their defenses. At the very least, some people who seemed like they wouldn't be able to hold on would be able to keep their lives. Finally, the Lung sisters arrived at the battle formation before everyone else had moved too far. At this moment, everyone could clearly see and sense the person tied to Lung Ninghuan's back with a whip. He was in the early stage of the primordial soul realm, and he was very young. However, he was already injured beyond recognition, and they couldn't see his face clearly. Moreover, what surprised everyone was that the Lung sisters were still sandwiching the young man in the middle with their backs against each other, even though they were clearly in the battle formation. It was as if they were afraid that he would be hurt in the slightest. What kind of person could make the Lung sisters so concerned about him? Little did they know that the Lung sisters also wanted to put Chun Hao down so that he could recuperate in the center of the battle formation. However, although they seemed to still have a lot of true origin left, they knew that this was all because of Chun Hao's continuous supply of true origin. Moreover, the two women were very happy in their hearts. They were very happy to enjoy the crowd's shocked gazes and praises, especially the praises such as "so strong," "even fairy you might not be their match," and so on, made the two girls feel very comfortable listening to them. More than 10 minutes later, rays of multicolored light flashed, and the barrier was finally opened. Boom! Boom! Swish! Swish! Violent attacks suddenly appeared, and one figure after another soared into the sky, flying toward the passage opened by the barrier. Within the barrier, numerous primordial soul realm experts flew through the air. Streaks of sword light, fist shadows, palm shadows, and leg shadows that contained terrifying power arrived one after another, shielding the cultivators who could no longer hold on as they returned to the city. Huan, Lele, I haven't seen you for a few years. I didn't expect you to improve so much and become more beautiful. The instant the Lung sisters flew into the boundary with Chun Hao, a figure brushed past them in the air and spoke to the two girls. The two women were slightly stunned, but when they saw the woman beside the young man, they snorted coldly at the same time and jumped onto the city wall. Oof. Mo Yuxian also snorted coldly. It seems like they have a deep prejudice against you. Little you, if I come into contact with them again, you shouldn't appear for the time being, so as to not waste my precious time. A faint trace of displeasure flashed on Shiman Wenjin's handsome face as he transmitted his voice. As the leader of the younger generation in Heavenly Mist City, when had he ever been ignored? Or was it because of the young girls? It was simply impossible. Not to mention that countless young girls would take the initiative to throw themselves at him with just a glance. But it was close enough. However, after the Lung sisters glanced at him and Mo Yuxian, they snorted coldly and left. There wasn't even a trace of excitement or surprise in their eyes. Mo Yuxian was very displeased, but she couldn't say anything. She was now Shiman Wenjin's woman, and it was normal for a man to have many wives and concubines. Moreover, he was under the orders of his family. However, 2 or 3 years ago, Mo Yuxian was very displeased with the two little girls who stole her title. It was to the extent that she didn't hesitate to teach them a lesson whenever they appeared in the free challenge arena. As a result, the two girls didn't have many opportunities to obtain rewards and temper themselves in the free challenge arena. It would be strange if she didn't hate them. However, she still couldn't stop the growth of the two girls. Can you tell who the young man they brought with them is? It seems like they are very concerned about him. I don't know, Mo Yuxian said, and she didn't forget to slander him. Maybe he is their lover. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for it. Your support is my greatest motivation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.